and it would the tumor would just shrink in size. And he had hundreds of testimonials coming in from his customers saying, "Oh my God, it's getting rid of my tumors."
Right.
And so it was actually curing these people. And the FDA is like, whoa, wait a minute. My opinion is they're just protecting profits for big pharma. This is how much I want. How much will you charge me? Okay, send it to this address. Here's the Bitcoin transaction. Here.
Right.
So it's like, he said, dude, if you go to trial, you're going to prison. There was a computer screen glaring. I'm talking like 5:30 in the morning. Computer screen's glaring, and I walk over there, and there's all these like witchcraft cutouts and like weird stuff on the table. I didn't know what to make of it. And I read on the screen, there's an email that went out to all of our investors where he had channeled the spirit of Nostradamus.
Hey, this is Matt Cox, and I am here with Justin Smith. Justin was in federal prison. He's got a super interesting story about it's like a story of redemption and a comeback story, and really interesting stuff that he's doing. So check out the video and check this out. I mean, we've met a few times, yep. Right? We met with Brandon with Investment Joy,
yep,
which is in Ohio. What's the name of the little town we went to?
Circleville and Chillicothe.
Chillicothe.
Yeah. That's where the bulk of his business is. Yeah.
And I've done a bunch of videos with Brandon, and we met, and you were locked up at Yazoo or Coleman also?
I was at Coleman, yeah.
Not at Yazoo?
Yeah, I was at Yazoo as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happened? So let's
Yeah. So
start at the beginning.
Yeah, start at the very beginning.
Where were you born?
So Columbus, Ohio. So grew up in a really conservative family. I was always an entrepreneur as a kid. I was like running around trying to mow the neighbors' lawns, snow blow, shovel
right.
snow, selling stuff door to door out of magazines to earn points to cash stuff in. At 13, well, before then I'd start like 12 or so. I started building computers, and at 13 years old, I started a dial-up internet service provider. I white labeled a dial-up internet service provider called Verta.net. So
white labeling is when another company actually
handles the fulfillment.
Yeah, and so you're really just putting your face on it to sell their product.
It was a little tricky back then. I don't know if you probably remember, but back in the day when dial-up came out, like you had to configure the internet settings through Internet Properties inside of Internet Explorer. You go to Internet Explorer, properties, internet settings, I believe. It's been a while.
Right.
And then you would there was like a box where you'd add your connections.
Okay.
And so to have an ISP back then, like you couldn't just like white label it. You actually had to build your own auto dialer and have a temporary account that would that people could log into and provision their account. So it would like connect to that account temporarily. It would provision their account, save the settings, and then it would disconnect.
Okay.
And just hopefully not more than two people or one person is doing that at a time because you're using one account.
Okay.
We weren't smart enough to like rotate accounts and stuff like that at 13 years old. But so hired a guy, one of Brandon's friends, I believe. I want to say his name was Corey Hennig. He was also a teenager, C++, coded the auto dialer. A little disc, and I put it in hardwares and gas stations and laundromats, and I put the discs everywhere. Sign up for $14 a month, I think, is what we charged. And then we actually bought the spam app. Back then, Gmail didn't exist, and
right.
Hotmail and stuff. They didn't have the algorithms they have today to prevent spam from hitting in the inbox. So we spammed like 40 million people, and I'm assuming like about 40 million Americans got our email.
Okay.
So got quite a bit of customers, left public school, went to homeschooling. Brandon was actually homeschooled. And it's funny because Brandon like witnessed this happening. He like witnessed me start this business. My parents took out a HELOC on their house and gave me the money to buy the software I needed and pay the developers. I was 13.
I mean, I ain't giving a 13. I'm not putting a lien on my house to give my 13-year-old son anything, but that's insane. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, well, my parents believed in me.
They must have been pretty impressed, or yeah, wow, okay.
It lasted like a year. DSL came in the area, so I convinced this guy out of
and wiped you out when DSL came in.
Yeah, we started losing customers pretty quickly. It wasn't like I didn't know what I was doing. I was
Right.
13. But I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Brandon and I actually met playing paintball at a place called RDAP Farms Paintball. And it was like recreation for us as kids, but I started playing.
Isn't paintball always recreational?
Oh no, it's a professional sport.
Are you? Oh,
yeah. So I started.
I was thinking like military use, but okay.
Yeah. So there's different kinds. There's like rec ball, and
Right.
like they play in the woods, and then there's people that just play for fun, and then there's people that play competition tournament paintball. We had 5 events domestically a year, and there's actually 2 leagues. There's the NPPL, the National Professional Paintball League, and then there's the NXL League, which has X-ball, and that's what I played. So I started playing for a field. The only reason I got on the factory team was because I built their website. I wasn't like exceptionally great at paintball or anything. I just loved it. Played 3-4 days a week, and I built the website, and it impressed the owner of the company that handled all the fulfillment in their pro shop. His name was Jeff Lizick, and he's out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And it impressed him. I was working night shift one night at Office Max, stocking shelves. I was like 17 years old, and Jeff calls me. I've never talked to this man before, and he says, "You know who I am?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, I own the company that fulfills the pro shop at the field you play at. I saw the website you built. I think he got my number from John Howard, or someone gave my number. He said, how soon can you come to Pittsburgh?" And
how old were you?
17.
Oh, okay.
He was like, "Just quit your job, leave right now, come to Pittsburgh." I said, okay. So the next day I went to Pittsburgh, and I built their new website for Action Fanatics. And so that website got a lot of traction, and it raised some eyebrows at even larger companies. Key Action Sports in Sewell, New Jersey is the largest, most definitive name in the sport of paintball. And they wanted to acquire that company. And they offered the CEO of that company and me both a job. I think they offered him like $180,000 a year. They offered me $35,000. I was 17. I turned the offer down. Instead, I went to college. So that's what brought me to Orlando. Went to Full Sail University, and I'm not really sure why I decided. I always was drawn to like the entertainment industry. So when I saw ads that you could get a business degree in entertainment and the law component to it, I said, this is for me. And I went and I did it. I jumped in head first and racked up $120,000 in debt. But yeah, so it's funny because Brandon was homeschooled his whole life, never went to college, and he's worth like $10 million.
Right.
But I'm not far behind, and look out.
Sometimes it works like that,
Yeah, I mean, some of the most successful people on earth don't have a college degree, or they dropped out.
Right.
So 2008, got my master's. 2007, I started working at a property management company called Reed.
So you got your degree in
entertainment business and law.
And your master's degree?
Entertainment business and law.
And you went to work for a property management company?
Yeah. As a web developer.
Okay, I can still see it being artistic, and I can still see the connection there. Yeah, it's still in the art, in a general kind of art field. Yeah, somewhat. So within, and that guy owned many businesses: Reed Rental Management, Reed Resort Realty, A to Z CDs. I mean, he owned a bunch of businesses. He was very successful, top 30 under 30 broker. I mean, he sold Gen Reunion. Very impressive guy. Hired me on the spot. It was the only job I applied to, and hired me on the spot. Not even 6 months later, I was running the business for $35,000.
Oh no, he paid me pretty. He paid me pretty good.
I know.
I think I started at 60, and 5 years in, I was making 120.
Nice.
It wasn't bad. So yeah, when I joined the company, there was like 12 properties under management. and he was just focused on sales. Contractor Plus is growing really fast. We've already got 18,000 contractors using our software. We're hosting our seed round on WeFunder with really great early bird terms. To put it into perspective, a $1,000 investment today could be worth as much as $850,000, assuming we reach a $3 billion valuation by 2030. If you're interested in making an investment, there's a link in the description below. Thanks. And we started growing really fast, hired rental leasing agents, property managers. It ended up bringing our own handyman team in-house, a Reed handyman. And that division ended up being our most profitable division of the whole business. We were subbing all our work out for 800 we grew to 800 properties in 5 years.
Right.
So, and we were managing properties for everyone. I mean, the president and CEO of Nespresso, a guy that's high up at Bridgewater Associates, some really big remote investors, and these guys never step foot inside their properties.
Right.
And so that's actually what led to what I'm doing now. Back then, running that business, there were all of these operational inefficiencies. Like, we had a foreman that would go out and do an estimate, for example, and he would bring it back. He would do it on paper, and he would write like how long it would take on the left column. He would write what needed done, and then he would write any materials he needed and like the quantity and a guesstimate of how much they cost. And then he'd bring them back, and either the bookkeeper or I would have to type them up in QuickBooks. He would take photos on a digital camera, and he would bring the SD card. So we'd have to take the SD card, put it in the computer, zip it, attach it to an email with a PDF that we exported from QuickBooks. So there's all this double data entry, and and then the investors get this email and they have to open up a zip file and they like look through this and they're like, what the hell is this?
Right.
So I realized there was a huge market opportunity. Nothing existed that would actually make it to where you could have full transparency and people could see exactly what the before and after photos looked like on a per line item basis.
Right.
And not to mention the inefficiency of having to do all that twice. So built a little app that we used internally. We never published it, called Handyman Estimator. And it solved that specific problem. And then it just got shelved. And I always recognize that, like, hey, listen, if it solves our problem, it probably solves
Right. What do you mean it got shelved? Like, you used it, you thought, hey, this is a business opportunity, and you just never followed up on it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really.
But you guys continued to use it.
It wasn't really my property anyway. It was property of the business.
Right.
So,
but you guys continued to use it.
Internally, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, crazy story there. That CEO kind of fell off the deep end. 2011, that's actually what led up to me doing what I did that got me in trouble. 2011, he had been living in Miami, Tampa. I saw him 3-4 times a year. We're up emailing late every night, but I never saw him in person. He shows up in Orlando, and he said, "Let's go for a ride." And I'm like, okay. So we get downtown, and he said, "You see that building right there?" And I said, "Yeah, what about it?" And he said, "That's where your new office is." So he'd already signed a lease on the 7th floor for just him and I. And then the goal, or he'd basically wanted me to manage the development of the top 2 floors, the penthouse suite. I started feeling uneasy. We had the money to do it, but it was like, why? Part of the reason it worked perfect. I mean, it didn't look good, but part of the reason our investors trusted us to manage their properties is because of how frugal we were. I mean, we had Cat 5 cables running under area rugs in, a ghetto. Literally, I don't know how much you know about Orlando, but Rio Grande, whatever, however you say it.
Okay.
Right by like OBT, by Jones High School. Like, it's in the ghetto.
It's a rough area.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but
Ybor type area, right, or Nebraska type area.
Yeah,
right?
Similar,
yeah.
Exactly. But you don't. It's not rough to the point where you like have to worry about anything. Like, it's just not aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
Like, show up and. I mean, I guess you could have to worry about it.
I was going to say, you don't really have to worry walking down Nebraska or Ybor, but you could. It could go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you're in an area where there's questionable characters. Like, might be great for months, and then one day, boom, there's a shootout in front of you.
It's kind of funny because
I
always had this stigma, but like this, I always thought Tampa was like worse than Orlando because like our office was in the worst part of Orlando, but then when I came to Tampa to take a girl on a date, and we went to the drive-in movie theater. And we stopped at a gas station, and clearly in the wrong part of town. And she gets out and goes in, and I get out. She said, "You should probably stay in the car." And I'm like, why? Well, I get out anyway and follow him. This guy shows me
she's rougher than you.
Like, yeah, right. No, it was just like, you don't want to have any confrontation. And I was tried, and that never happened to me in Orlando ever. So I just kind of always just imagined Tampa was a little bit rougher.
You just had a bad night.
That's all it was. It was just a coincidence.
Wrong place, wrong time.
Yep.
He's been known to cure insecurity just with his laugh. His organ donation card lists his charisma. His smile is so contagious. Vaccines have been created for it. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't typically commit crime, but when I do, it's bank fraud. Stay greedy, my friends.
Support the channel. Join Matthew Cox's Patreon.
So you're in the penthouse.
Yeah, so we renovated this penthouse suite, the old Angebuilt building, and like Henry Ford and Walt Disney had stayed there when it was a hotel, right downtown Orlando. We were getting ready to put our sign on the side of the building. We increased our burn quite a bit. We had the money to do it, but it wasn't the smartest business decision, in my opinion. We still had to commute to the warehouse, and that's another thing. We got rid of 2 of the 3 units that were connected.
So you just took on more to be in a nicer area and have a nicer parking space. You took on an extra $15,000 or $20,000 a month in
about $15K.
Yeah, which is just that's just an ego move, right? It's just
that's right. That's basically what it was. I disagreed with it. I think a lot of our investors did as well, but it is what it is. I like nice things, floor to ceiling glass. If you're going to be there, spend 80% of your waking life in your office. Okay, it's okay. It's okay that your office looks good. Long story short, one morning I come into work and Scott had left prior. He'd been there all night. There was a computer screen glaring, and I'm talking like 5:30 in the morning. Computer screen's glaring, and I walk over there, and there's all these like witchcraft cutouts and like weird stuff on the table. I didn't know what to make of it. And I read on the screen, there's an email that went out to all of our investors where he had channeled the spirit of Nostradamus and said something like, of the 942 quatrains that Nostradamus, something like that, had written, only one of them didn't rhyme, and that one that didn't rhyme predicted that the world would come to an end in year 2032. So I'm like, okay, something's wrong with this guy. Like, I don't know, is he off his medicine? Something's not right. So, I didn't know anything about him, his personal life. So I always admired him and like respect. Like when he walked in a room, he commanded attention. Like we built a massive business. Like he's no dummy.
Right. How long have you been working there at this point?
6 years.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 5.
Yeah. This wasn't 6 months in or a year in. Okay. This is.
I was running the business. Yeah. So, but I immediately did damage control. Said we had been hacked. Tried to clean up the mess. Logged into his social media profiles. Deleted all the crazy stuff he'd been posting. I was shortly thereafter terminated without severance. So to maintain the lifestyle that I had.
Well, so he?
Yeah, he fired me.
And what was his reason for firing you?
Insubordination.
Because he'd gone off
over his head and did something that I thought was in the best interest of the company that wasn't mine to do.
To cover up him going off his meds.
I was trying to protect our company.
Right. But
I always had his best interest at heart. I had the company's best interest. I mean,
did he not realize? Employees. Did he not realize what he had done? How insane?
I mean, so I think. I don't know exactly what was going on there. I know that clearly he was dealing with, in my opinion, something spiritual. He probably shouldn't have been messing with. I don't know. I can't speak to it, but I know that I had later discovered his mother had asked. So when we walked, there was a time where he took his suit jacket off and took his shirt off, and he had Egyptian hieroglyphics written all over his body, and his mother had asked if he had been taking his meds, and that's how I discovered that he wasn't on his medication. I don't know what medication that was, but I'm guessing an antipsychotic or something. But it's just so crazy that you can see someone that's physically fit, mentally fit, doing so well, has their MBA, that everything is together, like their business is running perfectly, making millions of dollars a year. Everything's running above the board. Our books are super clean and everything is like done by the book. And then out of nowhere, like just overnight, it all implodes.
Right. Yeah, I've got plenty of examples of that. But so I mean, I know exactly what you're saying, where everything's going great, and then suddenly, and I even dated a girl that, she would get on her medication. She was perfectly fine. She was amazing, wonderful to be around. And then every 2 or 3 months, she'd go off her medication, and she was a nightmare. And then she'd go back, for a month, and then she'd go back on her medication. She was amazing again. Right. And it was like, wow, that little pill is keeping you sane. So that's that really one works. Thing is, what happens is a lot of times they take it, and then they do great for a couple months, and then they start thinking, I don't need this anymore.
Okay.
Yeah,
you kind of do.
Yeah. It's like I'm fine.
Look, the doctor gave it to you for a reason.
Yeah, you're only fine because of the pill. So I can see, I can actually see that happening for 6 months or a year or 2 years, and then
the thing is though, like in prison, the people that were on antipsychotics, like they're walking around like staring at the ground with their tongue out, like they're drooling.
They're giving them a ton of it, and they're not giving them stuff that's like really tailor made. They're giving them,
it's like Thorazine, isn't it?
They're giving them like
Seroquel,
Seroquel, which is stuff like, okay, back in the 40s and 50s, you gave this to schizophrenics. Now, but the prison will give it to pretty much anybody. Like, they're not saying, well, wait a minute, this is really designed for schizophrenia. They're saying, wait a minute, you're saying you've got mood swings, and you know what? Take this.
Thorazine.
Or Seroquel, or whatever it is. And
for a mood swing?
And then they're drooling out of their mouth.
We know how medical is in prison. It's a nightmare.
That's what they used to always say, is that, look, medical kills more inmates than the other inmates.
They do, for sure. So I remember it was at Coleman, actually. There was a young guy that right before count, he'd just come to the compound. He came, and I believe in a move. So what was happening is, if you remember, Yazoo and Coleman was exchanging inmates.
Right. Is this the guy with the inhaler?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And he went and told the CO he couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And needed his inhaler. And the CO said, "Get back in your cell. It's time for count."
Yeah, they don't care.
And we'll deal with it after count. And the guy's like, "But I can't breathe."
Yeah.
Well, you're talking, go back to your cell. So they walk around and do count. And by the time they get there, the guy's purple. He's dead. Mm-hmm. He died. And then they posted notices. Do you remember the notices they posted on the wall? It's like, you can't talk about this. If we hear about, like, don't talk about this on the phone. Don't talk about it on the email.
Don't email your family. Don't talk about it. Because they're in the process of covering it up. They don't want you to fuck up their cover up.
But it's clearly a cover up.
Yeah.
They're putting it on the bulletin board saying you're not allowed to talk about this.
Yeah. Listen, I can think of, I've got a dozen examples of where people died. A guy went to medical like 3 days in a row, and they kept telling him, come back on Monday, and Friday night he died.
Yeah, I saw it a lot.
Yeah, but anyway, so what? So you lost your job.
Yeah,
and so then what happened?
So I got one video client, an aesthetic, like a plastic surgery center. Did some video production work for them, and that paid like $60K for a couple of days worth of work. And
nice.
I paid out. My college roommates flew in from Philadelphia to help with that job. I paid out like $10,000, I think. So I lived off of the proceeds from that job for 5 months or so, and then started running out of money. It wasn't bringing in new clients, so or at least not enough work to maintain the lifestyle that I was accustomed to.
Right.
So one day I was playing poker, and this guy who owns some smoke shops, he asked me if I knew what chemical was on this loose leaf, like green substance, which ended up being Damiana and marshmallow, 2 legal herbs that they spray. Back in the day, they would call it potpourri, or they'd call it spice, or
right.
Then everyone called it K2, where K2 was really just the top brand. And then you had other brands like Mr. Nice Guy.
I was just going to say, is that the Mr. Nice?
Coleman,
yeah, I know. I met him. I
he
used to
burned
talk
his
to
factory down.
Yeah.
So I was a distributor, and I came in, I imported 100 kilos at a time.
So you figured out what the process, what the chemical was.
Yeah, and I made a good relationship with the manufacturer.
Okay.
So to the point where they would give it to me on consignment. I'd pay a little bit more for the consignment relationship, pay them net 30. I would sell it in 3 days, so
Right.
it was no problem. And let me tell you, that's like, I couldn't get enough of it. People like it was their number. Like that product is what was carrying the smoke shops. That's all they were selling.
Right.
People were going in there to basically get high.
Yeah.
And at the time, it mimicked marijuana. JWH 18 and all the synthetic cannabinoids, they triggered the similar the cannabinoid receptors like marijuana. So when you would see someone using it, it would look like they were on weed.
Right.
I mean, but in prison, I'm sure you remember.
Yeah, well, that was something different. That was they were calling
Well, they still call it K2.
Yeah, they called
it's
it
not
that,
K2.
but- right.
Yeah. So, so one thing led to another. Then the head shop started selling little happy pills.
Right.
They're in like a foil bag with a Walmart smiley face
Right.
on it.
Right. And all of that was perfectly. It was perfect at that time. It was perfectly legal to have, and the problem is that and you've met multiple guys like this where they jump on the bandwagon, of a product that's not illegal.
Yeah.
They start making a lot of money, and then suddenly one day the federal government 2 years later realizes, what, this is an issue. We have a problem with that. We're going to make this illegal.
Right.
And now suddenly where you've got a stockpile of stuff in all these stores and you built a whole business around something that was perfectly legal, guess what? Now you're a drug dealer.
Yep.
So what do you do?
In the U.S., it's like they can do an emergency schedule as well. So they can schedule something tomorrow if they realize
Right.
like, hey, like this people are misusing this substance. Let's get it on the schedule.
Right.
In China, it's not like that. In China, they do it once a year. January 1st, they update the schedule. So they give all the distributors and manufacturers and the people doing this stuff, they give them ample time to liquidate, to get rid of all of their
Right.
inventory. Push it to the civilized world.
Yeah.
Let's
but you're not buying
uncivilize
anymore.
them.
I know, it's illegal. I know I'm
Right.
getting rid of the rest of my product. People are buying it. Like,
Yeah, exactly. So money was good. Business was good. And, I told myself, like, I'm only going to do this until I have enough to fund all of my own businesses, my own agency, all this stuff. It didn't work out like that. 100 kilos turned into the DEA seized 284 kilos in the mail going to addresses that I controlled.
but at this point, when did you know that it was illegal?
I mean, I knew it was gray. I knew it was wrong. I knew people were misusing it. I knew it was a drug.
Right.
So
But when did it become illegal?
so it was always illegal per the Federal Analog Act. So the
Oh, okay.
Federal
I thought we were just saying that it wasn't. So by the time you entered into
so
the
there's
thing,
two
you knew it
different
was
things.
illegal.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
So-
I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, there's the Controlled Substances Act and there's the Federal Analog Act. The Federal Analog Act states that any substance that produces a similar or like-mind altering effect, they can charge you with the nearest related substance.
Okay.
The Controlled Substances Act, I didn't know that.
Right.
But the Controlled Substances Act is very cut and dry. It's like cocaine is illegal.
Yes.
Methamphetamine is illegal. Like marijuana is illegal. Don't touch these things or you will go to jail.
Right.
But I didn't know, I figured since we're selling in stores, like
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, I didn't even know what I'd never been in trouble before. I didn't know what the Federal Analog Act was. So, or that they could rush something through to get it scheduled right away. They can arrest you on the FAA and then while you're sitting in jail, they can they can get it scheduled. So before your sentencing hearing. And they rushed that BKMDMA, which was like synthetic Molly,
Okay.
a fake knockoff,
Right.
China's version of Molly. They rushed it through. There was a case in Tampa, and then they waited on that case, and then there was mine, and they just decided how they were going to charge us. And it's weird how they do it in the federal system. They like relate it to marijuana, the marijuana equivalency table,
Right.
And they charged us at 500 to 1. So 1 gram equals 500 grams of marijuana. And
So that seizure was a massive amount of marijuana.
yeah, like
Each one of those
like
kilos
a
turned
train,
into.
Okay. Yeah, so but it was wrong. So they were wrong about that. I was in prison for maybe a year or so, and got called to R&D, and my lawyer had good news for me. They had sent the substance to a DEA toxicology lab, and the report came back and showed that it was less than half as potent as the substance they charged me with. So they had to adjust my sentence to reflect that. Now I was like, oh, this means I'm getting out soon. Like,
right.
No, it doesn't. It means they took 3 years off, 3 years off of 12 years. So
what happened? So you're doing great, you're making money, and then one day you get, the seizure happens. Did you know that they were investigating, or this is just something that came through the mail and the post office caught it? Or
I didn't really know too much. I had seen other people in the business starting to get in trouble. We had gotten letters prior to my door getting kicked in and our warehouse and office getting raided. I had gotten letters from the FDA telling us to like cease and desist. Like we're not allowed to basically sell these substances, and people are misusing them, and stop selling them.
Why didn't you stop right then?
Because we could just change the chemical.
Okay.
So I would just communicate through encrypted email. I'd use PGP, pretty good privacy, which not sure how they did it, but somehow the feds
They said
cracked. They had, so
it was pretty good, not perfect.
Well, my lawyer came to see me in jail and said, listen, so I got the evidence that they have against you. You decide what you want to do. He said, this is what they sent me. And they had all of these emails that were encrypted, mind you. All right. These emails were encrypted.
Right.
They had somehow decrypted them.
They probably own the server you were going through.
Yeah,
right? They probably set up that org.
It's dual factor. I still can't figure it out. Like to this day, were they running the honeypot? Was the federal government?
Yeah.
Are they the ones that were selling it to me? Like, I don't know what happened, but all I know is I'm pretty sure like that the PGP is pretty secure. Unless you have both private keys, you can't decrypt that.
Somehow or another they did. Maybe the guy on the other side helped out.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I figured maybe, I don't know. I still to this day, and I told my lawyer that. I said, I don't know. Couldn't this be like fruit of a forbidden tree? Like, this seems pretty sketchy to me.
Right.
Like, how did they get this? But the emails are very clear. It was from me to them saying, this is how much I want. How much will you charge me? Okay, send it to this address. Here's the Bitcoin transaction. Here.
Right.
So it's like, he said, dude, if you go to trial, you're going to prison.
Yeah.
I said, man, what's it look like? He's like, honestly, he said, I don't know, but I couldn't see, you've never been in any trouble. I couldn't see you doing more than 5 years. I'm like, 5 years. 5 years. At the time, I'm like, 5 years is nothing. Now I know it's nothing, but I was sentenced to 151 months.
It's bad. It's almost 13 years?
12 years.
12 years.
7 months. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It was a sad day. But, I ended up not doing that. So when that came back, that was 3 years. That took me down to 9.5. I got a year off for completing the RDAP program.
RDAP.
8.5. I got a year of halfway house and home confinement. 7.5. First Step Act came through and saved the day.
Right.
I was at a compound when this came through. So after you complete RDAP, they let you choose the compound.
Yeah.
That you want to go to.
Within reason, yeah.
Well, I chose it and I got it. I went to Big Sandy.
Okay.
And this place is they call it Big Candy.
Right.
Got an officer there selling. Wait, I shouldn't say this stuff. But yeah, it was a very good spot.
Yeah. We got a cell phone.
We would set out back by the handball court and drink moonshine every night.
Right.
On our cell phone with an extended battery pack. You don't plug your phone in the wall.
Right.
If the cop does walk, all they're going to find is a battery pack. 51 inmates there. All but one had a phone. And the guy that didn't have a phone, he was Amish.
Right.
And he used phones. So, good friend of mine to this day.
Right.
They actually locked him up for selling chickweed salve. It's totally legal. It's not a controlled substance, but the FDA went after him and said, listen, you're not putting a disclaimer at the bottom of your products that are saying this product has not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and is not proven to...
So mislabeling or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They give him 7 years for that.
Would he go to trial?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
They probably would have given him a year.
Of course he went to trial. But he wasn't guilty. He was saving people's lives. As a matter of fact, so he had a couple products. One was called
The federal government disagrees.
The federal...
He's innocent. That's not what the jury decided.
Yeah.
What?
And they got him for other stuff like witness tampering. They got him with a bunch of stuff.
And the more you talk, the more it sounds like he should have gone to jail. Maybe not 7 years, but I'm sure they could probably offered him a plea of a year or something.
Probably, but you know how principled old order Amish are. They're very
7 years worth of principled.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would have been 20 years worth of principled. Like
he would have still
death
said
worth of principled.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh hell no. Well, don't worry.
I agree with
those
you.
Those people are being wet.
His boys chased him off their farm with sticks. Like it was pretty funny.
It's horrible.
But so he had a product called Tumorgon, like Morgon, Tumorgon, and people had like DMSO, a driving agent, and it had some kind of like chickweed and stuff in it, that dandelion root. I forget what he told me his ingredients were, but the driving agent would drive the stuff down to the tumor, and it would the tumor would just shrink in size. And he had hundreds of testimonials coming in from his customers saying, "Oh my God, it's getting rid of my tumors."
Right.
And so it was actually curing these people. And the FDA is like, whoa, wait a minute. My opinion is they're just protecting profits for big pharma. Now, if you look at the board of the FDA, a bunch of big pharma ex-big pharma execs, it's all a racket.
You're going to get me demonetized.
Well, we can delete this.
No, I was just joking. So you're disseminating. What is it? Disseminating like like bad information. Like that's what
you know. What's bad though? It's like I said very clearly. It's my opinion.
You're
going to demonetize because I have an opinion.
No, they don't care. Listen, Bozak complained on one of his videos where he actually got an infection because he'd been wearing masks, and he was wearing the same mask. He said, I only had a couple masks, but most of the time I wear one mask.
Right.
And so he ended up getting an infection, like a sinus infection or something.
From the bacteria in the mask?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the doctor...
You're supposed to wash the mask.
Well, I understand, but he said, I didn't think it wasn't that bad. It wasn't like he was never washing
Come on,
it.
Boziak.
But he said he went to the doctor, and the doctor came back, and the doctor said to him, he's like, yeah, but listen, man, you're going to have to swap out masks, wash them more regularly, do this, do that. And he was like, and Bozak just that's all he did was kind of tell the story, and they gave him like a strike and demonetized his thing. And he was like, well, you have to listen to what I was saying. I was telling you what the doctor was saying. You're giving out bad information. I'm telling you what the doctor said. Like I didn't say not. He never said not to wear a mask.
Well, doctors give out bad information all the time.
But it wasn't that. It was that they were trying to say that he was saying don't wear a mask. He didn't even say that. They just heard mask, COVID, infection.
It may have not even been a manual review. It may have been an algorithm that just did it automatically.
Right. And he got upset. I think he might have had him review it or something. I don't know. He was just yelling about it. But yeah, but
then it takes like 3 weeks to do it. And it takes a while.
It takes. We've had pretty good results. A few days, right? 2-3 days.
That's not bad. Yeah, that's not too bad.
So anyway, so you're the Amish guy's saving lives, and he had to do 7 years.
In my opinion, he was. Yeah,
it's horrible. So what happened next? What's going on?
So when I find out I wasn't intending on being released for another 2 years, and depending on how much halfway house I got, and when the First Step Act, thank you Donald Trump, or should I say Jared Kushner, but I
think it was Trump. Trump passed the second.
But Kushner is the one that
pushed it.
Yeah, his father was in federal prison.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's Trump's son-in-law. So
you just said Trump again. Like I'm going to get demonetized again.
Oh
this
man,
is
come
never.
on.
It's never. I'm going to have major issue. I'm being shadow banned. Okay.
That's crazy.
Law enforcement often questions him, not because he's suspected of a crime, but because they find him fascinating. He is the most interesting man in the world.
I don't typically commit crime, but when I do, it's bank fraud. Stay greedy, my friends.
Support the channel. Join Matthew Cox's Patreon.
So, kicked me out. Went to, they pulled me in the office and said, listen, you are leaving on the Greyhound tomorrow. And I said, what? What are you talking about? And he said, you're going to Ohio. I was planning on coming back to Florida.
Oh, you didn't have time to switch your address?
He said, you're going to Ohio. That's where your family's at, and that's how I got you a year. He said, I got you a year of halfway house and home confinement. And
they make it sound like he went all out of his way to do it.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I fought for you.
That guy was ridiculous.
He probably just got an email saying, we're sending this guy here.
Yeah, right. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They don't do it.
Case managers are a joke.
God, they're horrible.
About like the reentry coordinators.
I
mean, how much are they paid? How much is a re-entry coordinator paid in
these
prison?
guys are getting, between they're hiring people at the BOP that it starts at like $38,000 a year.
That's low.
Well, it's okay. All you need is 1 year military experience or 1 year incarceration experience. You don't even have to have your high school diploma. They'll give you 18 months to get your high school diploma, and they'll extend it if you have a reason. If you just have to write a letter like, hey, look, I had a bad whatever. I tried to get it. I didn't have time. I have 2 kids. I have this.
I didn't know that.
And they'll extend it. So you can go up to 3 years before you.
Without a diploma.
Yeah. So you can basically go to the military.
Correctional officer.
Yeah. You can go to the military, get out of the military, apply, get hired at 38. That's your base. Then you can work overtime. They have an amazing retirement program, medical, everything. As soon as you get there, boom.
Yeah.
So, these guys after 2 years, they're making $80,000 a year.
They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere. And they don't want to help anybody. I mean, nobody wants to help you.
Well, that was my experience. All the teaching that's done in prison is done by inmates.
Yeah.
There's some college programs and stuff, but
listen, the guys, the COs running the programs don't want to help you at all either. They usually have an inmate doing all the work to try and get the.
Yeah, and you can just pay an inmate a few stamps and they'll sign off for you.
Yeah.
I mean, saying that you took the class, you didn't even have to go to it. So you get all these great programming credits that you didn't even earn.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, even if you go to the classes, like a lot of the stuff is so dated. Like what they're teaching is irrelevant and it's not practical in the real world today. So I've had a stance on this for a long time that they need to be doing more in the way of giving people a real world education that will end these revolving door policies and actually get them on solid footing when they get out, when they leave prison. But if you don't want them to keep coming back, if you truly don't want them to keep coming back, then you need to do something to make sure they don't.
Yeah.
Because these guys aren't used to living in cockroach infested slums. Like we were driving around in Ferraris or Maseratis or like living in very nice neighborhoods. Like we had very nice lifestyles, and we want to live a nice lifestyle.
Right.
The majority, not everybody, but a lot of us in federal prison at least. And if we can't maintain that lifestyle, then the criminal mindset
then I'm going
to figure out how to get that lifestyle.
Right. I'll break the law to get that money if I have
Exactly.
to.
I'm going to commit bank fraud. Like I'm going to order substances from China.
Right. You need an alternative. Yeah. You need an alternative to that.
No, we had enough time. I think we did enough time where like I learned my lesson. Definitely. It's like, don't do that shit. It's not worth it.
I feel like I've made a lot of these leaps in my mind prior to RDAP, I definitely think RDAP helped. Like really,
CBT is awesome. Like I still to this day, I have this app called Bloom. Shout out to Bloom. It's a CBD journal. It's kind of expensive. I paid like $70 for it, for $70 a year, but it's no different than like going to the gym. So you stay physically fit. Like you got to exercise your mind. Like you got to keep track of your feelings and your thoughts and like your emotions and be in tune with that. Like know what's going on inside of your head. Now whether you're getting there through talking to somebody or whether you're getting there through prayer or meditation or CBT journal, as long as you get there, I think that's okay. And for me, Bloom helps tremendously. So every day before I go to bed, I read and then I update my journal and I just tap the feelings, like the emotions. It sounds crazy. It's funny because when you're in RDAP, there's like most inmates are like anti-RDAP. They're like, they're like brainwashing you.
Yeah.
No, dude, they're teaching you what you're thinking. We have like 70,000 thoughts a day, and of those thoughts, I think they said like 60, 70, 80% of them are irrational. Most of them are not founded in objective reality, in fact. So all of that irrational thinking, some of it we actualize, like we say it or we do it, or, without, all subconsciously, the stuff is happening inside our brain and we're taking action without being aware of it. So what the process of CBT journaling or CBT, like in RDAP, we had attitude checks and RSIs, RSAs, rational self-analysis. So the process, all it's doing is it's showing you like, okay, so this is what I was thinking that resulted in this outcome that was unfavorable.
Right.
If I had thought this instead, then there's a good chance it would have resulted in this outcome instead.
Yeah.
And so that's a really good thing. Like that's a good tool. For me, it's been a game changer.
Well, I used to always say, look, the what RDAP does is, obviously it's more it's not really designed for drugs. It's not a drug. It's not a drug course at all.
It's not.
It's about
It's a behavior.
It's about behavior modification programming.
Patterns.
Right.
Addressing your erroneous thinking patterns and behaviors, getting to the root of it. Like people, it's when we see someone acting out or doing something stupid, like it's easy to just blame the person or like or that instance, like just, you know, but like when you really drill it down, there was an activating event, there was something happened before that, and the only way you can really fully understand or get to that, where that seed was planted, is if you really analyze the thinking that led up to that happening.
Well, I used to always say is that the thing is, all RDAP does is teach you to think like a rational person would, like most criminals don't think rationally. Yep. So what most of society does automatically, criminals tend to not think in that manner. And all RDAP really does is try and get you to think like a rational person.
Right.
It take these guys that have these criminal thinking errors and get them to a position, into a point where they'll think like a normal person, and that will probably normalize their behavior, and as a result of that, they'll just be a normal person. And I think the biggest thing with RDAP was basically just, humbling you and making you appreciate what you have, because to me that like changed everything for me.
Gratitude is the attitude.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that to me just altered my behavior and my attitude completely. I'm constantly having to kind of like do an attitude, I would say, or check my attitude or whatever. But I'm constantly doing that every day. I'll for a second there'll be a moment of disappointment or a moment of anger or a moment of what, and I'm like, whoa, bro, what are you doing? You've got it good. Like, this is a great life. You live a great life. Like, you should be appreciative. Right. Be this, be that. Or I think, man, I'd really like that car. I could afford that too. And I think, whoa, you've got a brand new vehicle. You've got a warranty. Your car, it starts every time. It's got, everything works. It's a good vehicle. Is it a Ferrari? No.
Yeah.
But a
Ferrari's not going to make you happy. You're buying like a false sense of that wears off in like 6 months.
Exactly.
It's a false. You're buying the reputation of the car. It's not actually making you more physically fit. It's not making you smarter. It's not making you anything.
You know what it's definitely not doing? It's definitely not making you a better person.
Hi, I'm Justin Smith. In my 20s, I made a series of bad decisions that led me to federal prison. I used my downtime to better myself and start a scalable, high-growth software company. Do you believe people deserve second chances? If so, come make an investment in Contractor Plus. There's a link in the description below that'll take you to our WeFunder. Thanks for your support.
You know what I'm saying? So in the end, that's the whole thing was like, I used to love prison because to me, prison was a great equalizer, right? Like you're a billionaire and you come in and your cell is a crackhead.
We're on the same level. That's right.
And guess what? We're all going to chow at the same time. We're all like, is there a chance that the billionaire lives slightly better than the crackhead in prison?
Oh yeah, he's got food in 5 or 6 different lockers.
Yeah, he's doing a little bit better. So he can take in a little bit more calories. He can maybe, drink a soda whenever he wants. Maybe he's got somebody who's keeping his room clean, but
folding his laundry.
Yeah, overall, he's pretty much got
all the same.
Yeah, he's got the same.
He could have every luxury that you can buy in prison,
and it still sucks.
Yeah. So it's funny that like I dog on the BOP for their reentry program and like how much effort they put into education, but
RDAP's not reentry, really.
It's not, but I think that's the one good thing about prison.
No, RDAP's definitely. It definitely altered my attitude toward getting out.
Yeah, I'm glad. It's weird to say this, but I'm like grateful that I had the opportunity to go through that program.
Yeah,
I've never been a drug addict. Drugs aren't really my thing. Smoked a little bit of pot in college, but I definitely wanted the year off.
Yeah.
And so
they told me
when I was in there were some guys saying, listen, if you want to get some time off your sentence, make sure you tell them when they interview you, make sure you tell them to use make sure you tell them that you're addicted to all these drugs. So I like checked everything, stuff I'd never even done before.
Yeah.
And
listen, I'd never taken opiates. I told them I was addicted to opiates. I had a couple guys tell me what they told me everything to say, and I said I was addicted to opiates, but I had no proof. They were like, do you have any proof of that? I'm like, no. But my lawyer in front of the judge said, Your Honor, he's addicted to opiate. It says this, it says that. And the judge says, well, then I'm going to recommend the drug program.
As long as they recommend it, you're good.
I got it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because I couldn't have proved anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's, I'm I think maybe everything happens for a reason. I don't know, but I'm glad that I got to go through that. Facilitated some of the best relationships I've ever made in my entire life. Helped me look at the man in the mirror and address myself instead of just pointing a finger everywhere, blaming everyone else and everything else for the conditions I'm in. That accountability system and having a different perspective on life and myself. I think it definitely made me a better person, and I'm glad I got to go through that. I think it may make sense because it's not a drug program. Let's just face it, like you said.
It's literally like the person who ran the program. It's a behavior. This is a behavior modification program.
Yeah. So why should drugs be because they should shift the focus and make it about, like, I think everybody should qualify.
I feel like we almost never talked about drugs in the program. Like they might say what your drug of choice was, but then they never really talked about
drugs.
Right. But you have to think to sell it to Congress.
Right. They had to package it that way.
It's a drug program.
Well, that's a problem that the Congress needs to reevaluate. Like, they need to I think there needs to be an open dialogue and honest conversation about that. I think everybody should at least be given the opportunity to take it and benefit from it.
Yeah.
Let everyone benefit from it, not just someone who had a drug problem.
Yeah. The problem is, so that 1 year, the benefit of the 1 year, getting 1 year off if you passed the program. Like, if you didn't give them the benefit, because nobody would take it. Even people that felt like they deserved it and they needed it, they wouldn't take it because of the environment they're in.
Get put on the outs by everybody else on the compound.
Right, because there's a stigma about it.
Sure.
Everybody in there, they all hate on the guys in RDAP. Oh, you guys are snitching on each other. You guys are fucking weak. You guys, so that you wouldn't take it. But if they gave everybody the benefit of the year off, if you can pass
everybody would take it.
They'd be lining up.
The guys that are saying you're snitching on each other, they would be right in line.
Yeah. They would all get out immediately and say, I faked my way through it. Yeah, but you know what?
Something stuck.
You learned something.
I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was weird. Everyone else was hating on it, saying, even people in the program, like, I'm just doing it for the year off, but I enjoyed the program.
I wrote a book called The Program.
No, I didn't know.
About RDAP.
No, I had no idea.
It's about me going through RDAP. Bro, it's hilarious.
I have to read that.
It's basically a comedy. Because, let's face it is a cult-like atmosphere. And there were people that were cutting each other's throats, and they were terrified, and they were, there's a lot of, it's very much like watching a reality TV show. Like,
well, every morning at the morning meeting, you read the morning the morning ritual. The morning ritual. We would recite it at the beginning of the meeting and the end.
Yeah.
It was literally like a cult.
It was. It felt so. The first time I heard 150 guys reading not the pledge or whatever they call it, but when they read it,
commitment statement.
Yeah, when they 150 guys said it, it was it was goosebumps up my arm. It was like, oh my god, this is a cult. Look at these guys.
You would get held accountable if the doctors would be scanning the room, and if they saw someone's lips not moving, you would get held. You would have to pull yourself up.
Yeah, and these guys are terrified.
Because you didn't recite it.
And you got to think if you have to think like Connor, like if you got kicked out of the program, you lost a year. They just added a year to your, like, if you thought I'm getting out in a year and a half. If I pass the program, I get out in a year. Well, guess what? If you don't pass, you're getting out in 2 years. So you just got a year. You feel like you got a year added. So you would be sitting there, doing whatever. Like, you could be listening to two guys talking, and if you lean to the guy next to you, like, man, that guy's a jerk, or did you hear that? If you said anything like, hey, bro, did you hear? The guy beside you it wouldn't be like, yeah, man, don't talk to me right now. I don't want to get in trouble. They would do this. They'd be like, they're terrified. They don't even want to lean in to say, yeah, bro, man, I'm trying to listen. Because then one of they call them the drug treatment, the DTSs would see you, and they might be like, Mr. Cox, do you have something to say? Stand up. No, hold on a second, John.
Good morning, community. I'm Mr. Cox.
Yeah. You stand up and say, good morning, community. My name is Mr. Cox. Green Group Phase 2. They would have us sell the group, and then they, well, what did you have to say, Mr. Cox? What did you have to? I mean, you're like, you understand? You could get kicked out for something like, bro,
or rolled back.
Yeah. Or they would call, yeah.
They don't want you to call it a rollback.
No,
because it has a negative stigma to it.
Listen, it was so.
You have the opportunity to get more treatment.
It was terrible. I knew a guy that was about to graduate, and he went into a team meeting, like with all the DTSs, right? And he went in, and they were sitting there, and they were talking to him, and he was being very honest. Like he was like, like honesty is a big thing about the program.
Honesty is the foundation of change.
Thank you. So they're asking him questions, and they said, okay, so, how do you feel about this? Oh, I feel like this. I feel like I've learned this. I feel like this. I have a better thought process, blah, blah. And as they went on, somebody happened to say something along the lines of, so you realize, like, you realize that, you committed a crime and this and that, and you feel like you've changed, and, you certainly wouldn't do that again. And he went, well, I mean, I wouldn't do it again, but I wouldn't say that I like that it was, I forget what he said, but they were like, they said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, I mean, like, I didn't hurt anybody. He said,
He was a drug dealer?
Was he? I forget. I think it was fraud. He was
Okay.
he's like, I didn't hurt anybody. I took money from the federal government. He said, I ended up keeping a lot of that money. He
Yeah.
said, so I wouldn't say it wasn't worth it. Like, in a way, it was worth it. I'll be getting out of prison here, in a few months. He's like, so I'm not saying it wasn't worth it. I know I shouldn't have done it, but it wasn't. I'm not saying I wouldn't.
He
say that
definitely did not respond. He did not tell them what he needed to tell them.
Listen, it's a 9-month program. Homeboy was about to graduate in like a month, all the way back to the beginning. All the way back.
Yeah.
Because the first phase
They
of the
basically
program,
stole that from him. And then if he chose to quit, then he'd lose even more time.
he tried to quit.
Yeah.
How many people did you know tried to quit? They
Yeah.
drag them for 2
Yeah.
weeks. They
Yeah.
call him in the office. They get inmates to try and talk you into staying. He eventually stayed because he went to his wife and said, look, they held me back. They brought me all the way back. And he said, I'm trying to get out now. And she's like, oh, no. No. She said, I've been down with you for 5 years. She said, and you're saying you don't want to put up with some crap for the next 9 months so that you can get out 6 months earlier? I just have to, it'll only be another 6 months. And he's like, well, I mean, yeah, but you don't understand. She's like, I don't care.
Yeah.
She goes, you're going back.
You're talking about
You're
Dr.
doing
Smith?
it again.
You take it at...
I took it with Dr. Smith, but
Okay.
I'm saying this guy's
Okay.
wife told
Oh,
him
I
this.
got you.
The
Yeah,
guy's
yeah,
wife was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
so you're saying you don't want to put up with some crap so you get out 6 months earlier so you could enjoy your time? She said, I've been waiting 5 years for you to get out. She says, no, you're going back to the beginning. You're going to put up with the crap. And the next time they ask you if it was worth it, you're saying it wasn't worth it. That's what you're doing. And he said, man, I've never seen my wife so pissed off in my life. He's like, I mean, she's...
I can
So he
imagine.
went back and ate crow and went through the program and got the year off and, didn't get out when he thought he was. And it obviously added another like 7 or 8 months onto his time. But yeah.
Sad. I saw there was a guy. So I took it to Pensacola. Interesting story. So someone ratted on me for having a cell phone at Yazoo.
Held you accountable.
No, I wasn't in the program.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Still holding you
Yeah,
accountable.
they held me
He's
accountable
just trying
for having
to.
a cell phone.
He cares about you.
Yeah.
He wants
Yeah,
the
right.
best for you.
He just wanted my phone.
Oh,
But so they and I was actually sharing a cell with the head orderly, so a good dude and older guy. And when they told on us, the lieutenants came and flipped. The lieutenants came
Right.
and flipped our cell upside down and couldn't find the phone. So they put us in the shoe, and they said, "Tell us where the phone is." And I said, "What phone? There is no phone."
phone.
My cellie,
That would be
my
contraband.
cellie was like, "You got to tell them. You got to." I was like, "Dude, you use that phone as much as I do. I'm not telling them nothing."
Right.
So they left us in the hole from August 15th, my dad's birthday actually, all the way to December 15th, 4 months. And on December 15th, they came. I had camp points. They couldn't give us a shot, so there was no shot that could stick. So they left us in the hole for 4 months to the day,
Trying to
And-
get you to admit to a phone that they never found.
Yeah, they never found it
Because
So,
some
in
guy
fact-
said they have a phone.
Yeah, in fact, so interesting story there. So, Mr. What was his name? Really cool dude. The unit manager. I forget his name in our building at Yazoo. He came to see me in the hole and he said, "Smith." I hopped out of the rack and he said, "I need your thumbprint. I need your signature." So he said, "You're going to Pensacola." I said, "What?" I went from the shoe to a camp. So as soon as I got to Pensacola, I was there for like a month, and I jumped in the program. I'm like, I'm going to go and get the points off now because there's some legislation pending right now. I want to make sure it was still early.
Yeah.
I still had 6 years left. So it's like, it's like but everyone else was like, don't do it yet because you can lose those points. If you get caught with, a phone or something, you'll lose it.
Yeah.
They'll take it back. I was like, nah, I think something's coming down the pipeline. Well, I was right.
Yeah.
So I didn't have a phone while I was in RDAP. That was the only point in my entire bid where I didn't have a phone.
Right.
But even while I was at Pensacola, when I worked off base, I worked at an Air Force base, and an inmate drove the bus. And we would drive like an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back every day from Eglin to Pensacola.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was that far.
It was pretty far.
Yeah.
It took us almost 2 hours with traffic.
Wow.
Florida traffic is crazy, but
so you have you can do all of about 4 hours of work, and you got to get in the bus and go back.
Yeah. So we would actually wake up early. We'd wake up at like 4 o'clock. Eat early. They had early chow. So then you go to the bus barn. You get on the buses. There's like 3 or 4 buses. You're followed by a CO in a car, but inmates drive all the buses.
Right.
They had a CDL program there, so which is pretty cool. Then we would get out to the Air Force base. We'd actually work a full day, and then we would just get back late. And so I'd have to work out late on the week, and then after
They paid you what, like $30-$40 an hour?
$17 yeah, right. Yeah, $17 a month.
What? Big money.
Yeah, big money.
For that, you can get 3, maybe 4 things of Keefy and a couple of couple creamers.
Can't even buy the boots you have to wear to work.
Yeah.
Oh, but they provide you with boots, so you don't have to worry about that.
Maybe a bag of Cheetos.
Man, BOP issued boots. So
Nice.
I was on a deforestation crew at Eglin, and that was actually fun. The guy, it was a civilian that like supervised us,
Right.
And he went by Yeehaw. And he'd been in the military way too long. This guy would always be like, yeehaw, after everything he said. But he would give us ample time. He would always leave. And
Right.
we had a little hole we drilled in the garage door of the shack in the woods where we were. And we could look out that hole. We'd take turns looking out the hole for see if CO was coming or not. And the rest of us would be there on our phones. So we'd have like an hour and a half a day or so on a phone. And I took a piece of, well, I'm not going to say where I got my phone. That's probably still a good spot. So good luck. It was okay. Like at the camp level, federal prison's not that bad. Of course, it's not what it was prior to, who was that lady? Was it Barbara Walters? She messed it up
she
for
did.
everybody. The BOPS swimming pools.
She did. She did a thing on like 60 Minutes called Club Fed.
Yeah.
And they interviewed
about how we had disc golf in movie theaters.
Yeah, they have golf.
We wore street clothes.
Yeah, they have and the problem was like they interviewed guys that were, they interviewed guys that were like, they had this one guy they interviewed where she was like, so they serve you chicken, and you can get either chicken or steak, anything else? And he's like, well, we used to get, like, you could get lobster. He goes, but we haven't seen lobster in a long time.
And they had ice cream at the end of the...
Oh, like it was, and he didn't really understand what she's doing, but she's like getting him, goading him into saying more. And he's like, oh, yeah. Well, no, you get this. So, he's not thinking it's a big deal because that's his environment. And he figures that's just federal prison. That's how it was.
Right.
And then when they were done with the episode, listen, they went in, they bulldozed the tennis courts. They poured in, like they just completely started gutting across the board, all these things. And that's when they started locking in. Just after that, they started locking up. They started going after all of the crack dealers and gang members. And before you knew it, federal prison ended up being basically like almost like a big state prison. Not as bad, but...
That was tough on crime, right? Clinton administration?
Yeah. Prison, but what's so funny?
That was actually Biden's doing.
Well, what's so funny is that, like, under the Clinton administration, Clinton built more prisons than any president in history.
Yep.
So it's funny.
That doesn't surprise me.
So they were phasing out everything. When I got locked up, they still had fountain cokes. Like the first month or so I was in prison, you went up, you got scrambled eggs, bacon. Man, I've been locked up for over a year. I had bacon. And then you could go get like a Coke, a Diet Coke, a Sprite, like all Coke products. It was like, oh my God.
I know.
And within a month, Within a month,
They kept the fountains, but they got rid of the bag in a box.
Yeah.
They went to like the fruit punch. Yeah, you got
which was horrible.
Yeah.
Or lemonade or water, and then now.
But it could be a lot worse, man.
Oh no,
like some guys in state prison, like
no. Oh, I was shocked.
Yeah.
Listen, I was shocked. I was like, bro, this is amazing. But then of course, when all that got phased out, even then. And people would complain about the food. I would think, well, what did you think they were going to feed you when you were robbing those banks? like when you kidnapped that guy and tortured him, like, what did you think? Well, at least if they catch me and I get to federal prison, they'll feed me good? Like when you were selling that methamphetamine, did you think, I'm cooking meth in the tub of my double wide and I'm selling it to kids or whoever I'm selling it to, but at least when I get to federal prison, there'll be steak and lobster? Like, bro,
right.
The food's edible. It ain't great, but it's okay. And every once in a while, you had a good meal. Mm-hmm. Like fried chicken.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have fried chicken. Yeah. Like you can't fuck up fried chicken.
Even if it was baked, man, chicken days always Thursdays.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad.
I got
holiday
meals?
out. Like now, I'm like done on Italian. I used to love Italian food. Now, like I won't even look at Italian food. It's like
What about the holiday meals?
Yeah, the holiday meals.
They actually have
awesome.
holiday meals where you got like
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and they would give you bags to take back.
Yeah,
like you got all this good stuff.
And guys would complain, bag's half as small as it was last year. Motherfucker, like you deserve a bag, a bag of Cheetos and like you. Like, aren't you here for smuggling drugs or didn't you rob like 12 banks?
You got a big clear bag full of stuff.
You got a bag with Cheetos and all kinds of different cookies and food and all kinds of stuff. Like, what did you think you deserved Santa Claus to bring you a bag in prison? You know, and they would have food like you would.
It's a good thing though. Like I think you have to do something. Like every now and then they bring a popcorn machine out or a snow cone machine.
Yeah.
Like you got to do something. Like these guys. Like first of all, people deserve second chances.
Right.
And well, not everyone there is a scumbag.
Right. Well, if you ask people on the street, they'll tell you like they shouldn't have TVs.
Yeah, I know.
They shouldn't have. But the truth is, it's like, wait a second, bro. Like those TVs. If you didn't have those TVs, these guys
nobody would
wouldn't
make it out alive.
Yeah, they wouldn't be reading books. They'd be
We'd kill
fighting and stabbing each other. It'd make the guard's job 5 times as hard. Those TVs are babysitters.
Yeah.
They keep them subdued.
You know, it's funny. I never watched TV in prison. Like hardly ever.
I hardly ever did
watched
either.
The news.
I read almost all the time, but I'm not.
Too.
You're not the normal inmate. I'm not the normal inmate.
Right.
So, but yeah. I heard you. But yeah, you're right. And so do they give you little treats to keep you happy and to pacify? Like they're not doing this because they care about you. They're doing it because it's like, hey,
they realize that
if everybody's
the consequence
good,
of not doing it.
And think about how childish this sounds. If everybody's good this week, on Saturday we're gonna make popcorn, and you guys can all get a bag of popcorn. Be good.
That's exactly what it is.
That is what it is. We're gonna have snow cones. What kind of snow cone? We have 2 different flavors. Are you gonna have cherry? Yes, we are. I'm gonna be good all week. I'm gonna make my bed
for a cherry snow cone.
It's pathetic, but at the time, your expectations of life are so low at that point. Getting a bag of popcorn is amazing. Having movie night on Wednesday night, like they're gonna show the new James Bond.
Yeah,
I don't deserve that. Like that's like amazing. And I was thrilled. I'd be like, bro. Fucking Casino Royale on Wednesday. No, absolutely. You're gonna be there. Of course, I'm gonna be there. I'm posting my chair up all day. I'll sit there all day for you. I love that. That's like now you realize like that.
It was a big deal.
Like that's insane. But I was that guy.
Yeah.
I was like, we're watching Walking Dead on Sunday night. I'm ready to fight.
Yeah, we did have our shows. That's true. Yeah, we had our shows that we watched.
I only watched I would watch maybe a movie every other week because sometimes they were just horrible, and then every Sunday, I would watch Walking Dead. That was all I watched.
At Yazoo, at Coleman, it wasn't like that. There was hardly any phone. When I was in the compound, there was hardly any phones. There's very few.
Yeah, very few.
But at Yazoo, everybody had a phone. And if you could come up with $2,400, you could have a phone.
Well, you had good COs there.
The COs were the ones bringing it in.
Oh, I know that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly.
But at Coleman, you understand now at Coleman, they had a shakedown the other day, and they took 200 cell phones off the Coleman.
Recently?
This was at the low.
How many phones?
200.
Off Coleman low?
Over 200. Over 200, really.
Wow, that's like a record for Coleman.
Because you know what's happened? When COVID came through, the BOP
that's 10%
went through.
Of the compound.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm saying when COVID came through, they pushed a bunch of the older guys, older COs to retire. They
So now it's
hired
younger.
the most senior CO at Coleman Lowe has been on the job 2 years.
Really?
So that's the most senior guy.
No way.
The guy that has the most
So there's
experience.
no one there right now that was there when we were there.
Like every time they do a sweep, it's 100, 200. Because you have to think, if you can get the guys that have been there for 20 years and 15 and 16 years, those are guys making $100,000 a year. We get rid of them.
They don't have to pay them that anymore.
Right.
You can bring more people in for less.
We shift them back. We get new guys for around $36,000, $38,000. Takes them, a while to build up to where they're making more money and working overtime. We pay them a lot less. So that's a good thing for them. But the problem is those guards are supplementing their income by bringing in
Phones.
drugs, phones, do what
And
you
they're
want.
going to get knocked off. When I was at Big Sandy, there was a guard there named Hank Williams.
Nice.
No shit.
Nice.
And he was actually the coolest guard on the whole compound. Super cool. We worked in the penitentiary kitchen. See, they told us, the guy that ran the kitchen at the camp told us face to face, he was like, listen, gentlemen, he said, I've done things in my life that could have easily put me in the same situation you're in. Some people get caught and some people don't.
Right.
So who am I to judge you? He said, the real reason you're here, the only reason you were here and not at home with an ankle monitor on, is because we need help running the prison.
Right. Nice. Yeah.
He said when they're on lockdown, when it's just a camp and a penitentiary, and they're always locked down. Some guards bringing drugs in, or the people are falling out on crazy chemicals and doing stupid stuff, killing each other. And someone gets killed, they have to do a big investigation. They lock the whole yard down. They're always on lockdown. So we ran that kitchen. So while the penitentiary's on lockdown, we would go down there and cook.
Yeah.
Me and I started on the line about a month into it. I was cooking. Me and my buddy Sam Gerard, the Amish guy.
Right.
We were on A team cooking at the penitentiary. So Hank Williams worked in the kitchen at the pen, and I guess he was braining phones and methamphetamine and all kinds of spice and stuff under his vest.
Okay.
And he got sentenced, I think, to 27 years or something like
27 years?
Yeah, or 17 years. It's something. He got sentenced to a long time.
That's insane.
I didn't think they were going to hand him that kind of a sentence, but his boy, I guess, was buying it off someone on the street, was branding it to him. And he was taking it in the prison. Him and his son both got arrested. So I don't know how that went down, but I know that he was the coolest cop there. And
remember
figure he was selling drugs.
There was the lieutenant who's at Coleman whose wife was in the pen, and she'd basically set it up so that another inmate was supposed to break another inmate's arm in the shoe. Like one inmate was giving her a hard time, blowing her kisses and saying dirty things to her, and got under her skin. And then she had another inmate that she liked. So he was always very respectful. They were in the shoe. And so he said, put me in there with him. I'll teach him a lesson. And she goes, and so she switched him. And the guy, of course, they got into a fight, and the other guy fought back, and he ended up choking him to death. He ended up killing him. And so then the FBI comes in. They've got her on film. They've got the talks. They've got this. They've got not video, but and then of course the guy that killed him, you're about to get a life sentence, And he basically said, "Look, I'll plead to this much time, and I'll tell you what happened with her." And so she went to trial. They offered her 10 years. It was kind of like manslaughter type. Like you didn't mean for him to die. And she said, no, fuck that. I didn't mean for it to happen at all. She tried to say, no.
Put him in the cell with him.
I understand, but but she went to trial because she's watched too much Law and Order and thought things were fair. And she lost at trial, and she got I think she got 30 years or life.
Is it bad that I said I'm glad she learned things weren't fair?
I mean, I don't think she meant to. I think that if you don't have the right attitude, then you shouldn't take It's like the police officers that pull people over there and they're just complete jerk offs to them. It's like it's like you don't have the temperament for this job. You're taking advantage of this situation. And
sure.
So I don't know. But anyway. So what happened when you? So ultimately, you just got kicked out to Ohio.
Yeah.
Did you go stay with Brandon? No, I'm just what?
Brandon's been a really good friend of me. A lot of people, when I went to prison, they just kind of forgot I existed.
Of course.
Most people, even
that's
family,
what all your good buddies do.
Family.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
I hear you.
It's wild. But
the people I felt like I did the most
Brandon never
for.
passed judgment on me.
Right.
He knew. I think Brandon knows me though. They say it's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And Brandon knows my heart, and he knows my character, and he knows my values, and I think that's the only reason that Brandon was able to, not be like that.
Right.
He's been a very good friend of me. In fact, I've helped him in his business.
Right.
Set up his production studio and recruited team members and systemized some processes and had TV mounts made and developed the curriculum for 5 master classes we're now bundling together, and he's now taking on coaching clients, and he's not doing it he doesn't need $3,000. He doesn't need money. He's doing it to help people because he remembers just 12 years ago, he was in a warehouse making $11 an hour.
Yeah.
His parents never had any assets at all. And if it wasn't for someone extending a hand to help him, he would have never accumulated the wealth he has today. So he's genuinely helping people. And I see so many people in the program are making really, they're like Jacqueline and her husband, Andrew, their goal, she works full time. They have a 10.5-month-old baby. He's a stay-at-home dad out of Austin, Texas. And she was interested in learning how to do this stuff, but she was nervous. Like I work full time. I want my husband to be on board. They were kind of back and forth for a month. And I said, listen, if you show up and you take this seriously, their goal is to own one laundromat. I said, I promise you will own a laundromat. So Brandon's going to hold your hand through the whole process and make sure you know exactly what to do to get into a Cashland business. And it sounds like, how can someone guarantee me that I'm going to own a laundromat? It sounds like a tall order. But as long as you know what to do, you know how to approach a situation, how to negotiate the deal, you don't need to have money, and you don't need to have credit to acquire a business that's cash flowing from day one.
Right.
That is the reality. 65% of businesses in the United States are sold with some level of seller financing. And most people don't know that. You got 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day, and 19% of them, close to 20% of them, have or own local businesses.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with it anymore.
You'd be shocked how many people are willing to do owner financing on their houses, on real estate.
MLO deals.
But people don't want to even ask. Like the real estate agents don't want to ask.
You mean I got to call 50 people to find a landlord that's willing to let me take over their house on a contract?
Right.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. Actually,
it's going to take 5 hours.
Actually, you have to take probably 10.
Yeah.
10, I mean, I used to do it all the time.
You filter the list down right. Like, it's all about knowing what to look for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's all public information. I mean, you got eviction records. You've got all kinds of.
Well, no, I'm
you don't have to go knock on doors.
No, I was going to say I literally would go in a day and take a real estate agent, go to 5 houses on houses that weren't willing to do owner financing. Yeah. They're not even offering owner. And
the best deals are off market.
I'd put it. No, these are these are listed.
Oh, they're listed. Okay.
And I would put a contract on every single house where I'm putting down 10% or 5%, and I'm asking for owner financing. And then they would come back and they'd say, well, I can't. I have a mortgage on my house. We'll do a wraparound.
Yeah.
Well, what if? And then I have certain things that I say when they say they have what the reasons that they don't want to do it, and then I have rebuttals to those. So there's stipulations and rebuttals, and they would say, no, I've got an issue with this, and I'd give the rebuttal. Issue with this, rebuttal. So I do that. And you go through 5 of them or 10 of them, one of those people says,
it's a numbers game.
Okay.
As long as both people feel like, if you can illustrate the value of the deal, and as long as both people feel like they walked away from the table benefiting, then the deal will happen.
Right. So you didn't end up living in Brandon's spare room. You went to a halfway house.
Yeah. So I went to a halfway house.
How long did you get for a halfway house?
6 months.
Oh, okay.
And 6 months home confinement. So a year combined. The halfway, they ended up letting me out. I wasn't there the whole 6 months.
So you really got a year halfway house. You just happened to do 6 months of it at home.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So I did more than 6 months of it at home. I did like 9 months, I think.
Okay.
I did like 3 or 4 months in the halfway house, and they sent me home.
As long as it took them to figure out that they could put an ankle monitor on you.
Yeah.
That process and get you out.
It.
Yeah.
You were allowed to have a phone at the halfway house, so
Yeah.
that was nice. I actually brought the phone that I had from prison.
The fuck out of here.
Yeah, everyone's like, dude, they're going to go through your stuff when you get there. And then I called someone that I was in prison with. I think I called Tyler Cox from Pensacola, your cousin. He lives in Columbus, and he said, nah, they didn't check nothing. You're good.
They went through all my
it, but
stuff.
you're allowed to have a phone now,
Right.
so you're good.
Right.
I'm
But
like,
you
wow.
can, well, I was going to say, but you could always say, my brother gave it to me.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm
before I
saying?
got here. Yeah, exactly.
Did they make you turn it in every?
No.
Or they
no,
check
they
it?
checked the sex offenders' phones, but they didn't. They came around and did phone checks, but they only checked the sex offenders. And I saw sex offenders getting locked back up from the halfway house. They're like, it's a sickness. They've got something wrong with them. And like there was one guy, I remember, he was in the room next to me. They were locked down due to COVID. Everyone in the room had COVID, and they would have to lock everyone else down to let them go take showers and use the bathroom and go outside, and then have to sanitize the bathroom before everyone else. Everyone got COVID except me. I don't know how I didn't get it. So, but anyhow, this guy had like a remote monitor, like a wireless monitor for his phone, so you could like swipe. It adds an extra screen.
Yeah.
And he would sit in the table in the halfway house in the corner back in the room and stream porn on that screen. Well, someone told on him, held him accountable, and
Right.
someone held him accountable, and they went in and did a phone check and found where he had like downloaded Tor, and he was accessing. He had the browser still open, and he was accessing. Yeah, and they locked him back up. The marshal came and took him back to prison.
Major problem.
A couple weeks later, they came and locked up another guy, a young guy. Yeah, I guess child pornography, like, there's something. It's like heroin. Like, you know, these guys are.
Yeah, there's something's wrong. But
Yeah.
so you went home. Like, I mean, what did you get a regular job? Like, I mean, something led to where you are now, and I know it goes back to the.
Yeah, I'm in a pretty good
I know.
situation now, and it actually. So
When did you decide? I'm saying, when did you decide?
So there was a point. I was reading a book, and I read this book at Big Sandy in probably 2019. I'm reading this book written by David Rose, and he's the president of the New York Angels Association or whatever, the chapter. It's like an angel investment group. And he has written a couple books on angel investing, and this particular book was called The Startup Checklist, the 25 steps to take to build a scalable, high growth business. And it just basically walks you through how to do everything per Silicon Valley standards, like Delaware C Corp, cap table management, your different classes of stock, your common stock, your preferred stock. You're drafting your bylaws, making sure everything is like done properly per the standards of the investment community and the VCs. So once I read this book, I mean, I read it like the Bible, and read it 2 or 3 times, and I started implementing this stuff. So I had a phone the whole time. So I set up my Delaware C Corp. David Rose has a platform called Gust.com. It's a legal platform. They handle all of your cap table management. They connect you with a law firm. The law firm waives their retainer, and they give you a month of free consulting every month. So it's $3,000 a year for Gust, but
they give you a month of free consulting.
No, they give you 1 hour a month.
Okay, 1 hour
law
a
firm.
month.
Everything else, anything actionable is billable.
Yeah.
But we've got a really good lawyer. And it's all a result of me finding that book.
Right.
So I set up the C Corp, and I still have my connections in India. One of my best friends, we had built and sold a little software startup in 2011, 2012 as a side hustle. We've been friends ever since. I went to India to visit him, spend a few weeks there, and we've been best friends ever since. So he never turned his back on me either. And when I came back to him and I said, hey, you remember Handyman Estimator? I said, I've been thinking like long and hard about this. I've been doing research, some market research, and I realized there's 25 or so competitors competing in the field service management software space, and none of them are really addressing the needs of these companies. They're solving problems at the company level, like some problems, like sending estimates or invoices, like kind of.
Right.
Honestly, they've all kind of half-assed it. And I'm sorry, but like a cake half baked is inedible. So I said there's a huge market opportunity for someone to come along and solve problems at the network level and address the way these contractors are working with one another and how they work with property managers and project managers and master developers. And if you can streamline that whole interaction, that whole engagement, like this is, at the time it was growing had a compounded annual growth rate of like 11-12%. Now that's even growing. So right now the field service management software market's growing at 20%. So by 2030, we are looking at a $25 billion market opportunity. And I see a world where every contractor in the developed world will have at least a free Contractor Plus account.
Okay, so what you're saying is, so right now, if I'm a contractor, what does this do for me? What am I? I put in crown molding and door casing, and I put in French doors.
Sure. So we've actually partnered with the Home Depot. We've partnered with Next Insurance. We've partnered with Chase for payment facilitation. We've partnered with Thumbtack for lead generation. So as a contractor, what it does for you is, one, it helps you find more customers. Two, it helps you systemize and organize your business. You can manage all of your scheduling. You can delegate to team members. So everything's on a schedule. Here soon, we're launching the Live Map with Live Map delegation, so you can see where everyone's at on a map.
So is this something? Do you have to be like a big contractor?
No, it's free for a solopreneur. For like, if you're just a one-man show, solopreneur, like the artisans, the guys that are just out, like the electrician is just doing odd jobs or whatever. He doesn't need to pay for it. It's totally free for life. It's a freemium app, and the reason we make it free is because we've monetized free. Every time he sends an invoice to a customer and his customer pays with credit card or ACH, we get 40 basis points, or we make a percentage.
Right.
So off of that transaction. So
that sounds like a lot, but that's less than 0.5%.
Yeah, it's less than 0.5%. But when you're doing
nothing.
Yeah, but when you're doing $70 billion worth of invoice volume.
Right. No. I'm saying like, not like you're charging a lot of money. That's very little money.
Yeah, exactly.
So for that guy,
we've actually made it so, and we're the only solution that does this, but you can actually pass the processing fees onto your clients. So if you enable that, then it'll mark the invoice up. When your client gets the invoice, it'll say, okay, well, if I pay with credit card, then I got to pay 2.9% plus 30 cents. If I pay with ACH, I got to pay a flat 1%. But the idea here is, like, you're doing $500,000 a year in volume as an SMB contractor. 3% of $500,000 is what? 3% of $1 million is $30,000. So it'd be 15 grand.
Right.
So do you want to give away $15,000 a year in bank fees?
Right.
Well, we make it so you don't have to.
Right.
So we actually launched our beta in June of 2020. I was still at Big Sandy, and launched our MVP in December, and our minimum viable product. And
I was just gonna say, what is MVP?
Yeah. So, and then we built a team. We built a great team. We have 14 employees now. We're all still wearing a lot of hats. I'm still doing customer service and sales and HR and but we have a great team that's dedicated. We're all united with the same vision. Like we see the problem that people are having. We're very customer centric. Like, if you haven't read our reviews, like if you download the app Contractor Plus and you read the customer reviews, they're overwhelmingly like really good.
Right.
And the reason is because when customers come to us and say, it would help me better if it did this instead, or if you could put this here, if you could do that, like, we take that stuff to heart.
Right.
And that's the thing. Like, initially when we started the company, our goal was just to raise endless rounds of dilutive capital and just prop up our valuation and exit in 5 to 7. But now I've realized, like, this has become a passion. Like, I'm connected with these contractors. Like, I have skin in the game. Like, I care about their experience. I care that this actually solves their problem for them in the best way possible. And what I found is, typically when companies start working with venture capitalists, they come in, they kick most of the founders off the board, they take control of everything, they formalize everything, they hire a new CEO, the company loses its soul.
Right.
It's just another soulless entity that doesn't really give a crap about their customers. All they care about is the bottom line. And I don't want that to happen to Contractor Plus. So I think the way to preserve that is to remain lean, remain frugal, and remain customer centric. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is by not getting into bed with VCs. So that's why we're raising a regulation CF or crowdfunding campaign on through WeFunder, because you don't have to be accredited to invest. So, retail investors, accredited investors, regular people who recognize like, hey, this software is making a big difference in a lot of people's lives, and it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar company. Like, you'd be crazy. Even if we were worth, $1 billion in 5 years from now, $100 would be worth $20,000.
Right.
It's so early stage. Like, you put $100 in, you could turn it into 20 grand. Now it's a startup, so
right. How long?
Nothing's guaranteed. But
how long? But you've already got over 1,000 people signed up or something like that. Or?
Oh no, we've got 18,000.
18,000.
18,000.
How long have you been doing it?
Since 2020.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've never paid
18,000 people signed up.
Yeah, and we're getting 50 a day right now. Our customer acquisition cost is $0. We've never paid $1 for customers. Mostly getting them through the app stores, through search engines, and we haven't even shipped our viral network effects. Subcontractor management and compliance, our staffing solutions, and we have a lot of stuff that addresses the way contractors work and network with each other.
Right. That
when that hits the market, their viral network effects basically, it makes it so irresistible because if it's like a glove, whether you're an artisan with one employer, one helper, or whether you're a master developer with 500 employees or hundreds of subcontractor or vendor relationships, we give you the solution to solve those problems. So what happens is we don't make the master developers aren't our bread and butter. We might make $100 a month off of them. And it's usually the other way around, like you're only making $100 off of a company that's doing $200 million a year.
Right.
Like, well, yeah, but they're bringing us all of our customers for free.
Right.
So, it's a win-win relationship. Like I said, if everybody walks away from the table feeling like they won, then everybody wins. So, I'm really proud of our team and what we've been able to accomplish. And
this is out of Ohio?
So I'm in Ohio right now. Our office is in Orlando. I'm constantly between Ohio and Orlando. We have team members all over the world. We're mostly, everybody but our DevOps team is remote. So we've got a couple guys in Atlanta. We got a guy in Tampa on our senior leadership team. We've got.
So you didn't get the top two floors of a building in downtown Orlando to run everything out of?
No, definitely not.
Oh.
So Jason Fried, however you say his last name, he started a company called 37 Signals. He wrote a book called Remote, and he makes a pretty good argument for the benefits of working remotely.
Right.
Now, from our DevOps perspective, a lot of our team is remote right now. We have an office in India that we pay rent on. A lot of our team is working remotely.
But it's in India.
Yeah, so
you can get somebody with a master's degree for $2 an hour in India.
Well, no, not quite. So, like the talent that we need, like they're for engineers. If you really want like rock stars that are like kind of like a master of all, that are as creative as they are technical, you're going to pay $3,500 a month for that. It's changed,
right?
But you can get people who are really technical and really good. Oh. I couldn't afford it here. It'd be prohibitive. Contractor Plus wouldn't exist if I had to rely on American labor. I pay at least $150 an hour here. And they would milk the clock.
Yeah, I was gonna say. And and they'd be bitching and moaning the whole time.
Yeah. So I've recognized like one of my agendas for this coming year, or upon completing this raise, is getting our DevOps team centralized. We're going to put an office right in the middle of everyone in Mumbai. And we're going to relocate our senior Android developer and his whole family to Mumbai. He's the only one that lives afar.
He's got to move to Mumbai?
Yeah.
Where's he live now?
He lives like 3 hours away.
Oh, it's fine. Okay.
Yeah,
I thought this might be a guy that lived in Orlando.
Oh no, but I'm going to have to spend a lot of time there.
I'm not moving to Mumbai.
So one thing,
Orlando,
right? Have you been to Mumbai?
No, I'm just joking.
So,
I'm just joking. India is actually beautiful. You know what I'm saying? Like they show parts of whenever you watch the news, it's always just crap. You know, but there's actually some great spots in India. Like there are great spots.
I think everything is perspective.
Well, I think, look, you can go to Tampa And I could drive you around Tampa for 5 hours and you'd see nothing but just trash and garbage. You'd be like, this place sucks. Then I could drive you around for 5 hours in Tampa and you'd be like, oh my God, everybody in Tampa's rich.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
it's like
true.
that in every city you go to.
Yeah. Mumbai, not so much. Like the best part of the city is Lower Parel, and it's connected by the Whirly Link, which is a big bridge, and the tuk-tuks aren't allowed on the other side of the bridge, so you have to like get out of a tuk-tuk and get on a taxi. And all the taxis look like they're from like the 1950s. But so you go over to Lower Parel, it doesn't look much cleaner or better, but that's where the wealthy people are, and everything's nicer there. The real estate's nicer, but you can't tell from the outside. From the outside looking in, it's like everything's pretty. And the slums, like I stayed at the Four Seasons for like a week, and on the rooftop of the Four Seasons, you can look out over the slums, and it just stretches for miles and miles and miles, further than the naked eye can see. And I'm talking and I actually spent some time in the slums. I wanted to see what it was like to live there, and I wanted to see all sides of that culture. There's families of 5 and 6 living under a painter's tarp, totally common, burning their trash, and like it's.
Sound good at
People say India smells bad. Well, it's because people are burning their trash everywhere. We went to this. We went to Elephanta Island, and then we went to a place called Essel World. It's like Disney World. It's like India's knockoff theme park, the largest theme park in Asia. It says you have to get on a ferry, and they take you out to this island where Essel World's at, and there where we were waiting on this boat. There was like 15 feet of trash from the shoreline. They just never clean it. So India is.
It doesn't sound good at all.
Pretty bad. It's pretty rough. But I enjoyed it. I like Indian food. I don't know. I never got sick. Everyone's like, "Don't eat the street food. Don't drink the water." I'm like, whatever, dude. Nothing ever happened to me. So what's really funny though, interesting story. So
I'd love to hear.
You know how they put
the
red dots they put on your forehead.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got off the plane, so there was a doctor on the plane, and
an Indian doctor.
Yeah, I was the only white guy on the plane, and it was a female doctor, and she was like, "Do you want some?"
Like 5 doctors, and
they're all Patel.
They're all Patel.
Yeah. So she said, "Trust me, you want some? Put this on." It was like in a roller vial. But she was a stranger. I didn't trust her. I'm like, I'm not rubbing that stuff on my skin. But it was like neem oil, I guess. It was something to keep the mosquitoes away.
Right.
And I was like, no, I'm okay. And she was like, okay. I got off the plane. I got bit by a mosquito where the red dot would usually go. It swole up. When I got to the hotel,
Everybody
hotel was
thought
like...
you were married.
They thought I was going to have malaria. So they were like, did you have a malaria blocker?
You don't think any of this stuff's funny. Listen, Connor doesn't find me amusing at all. At all. Everybody else laughs and smiles, and Connor just shakes his head like this guy. Anyway, sorry.
So they sent... The hotel actually bought and they paid a doctor to come to the hotel, and she came and she gave me a pill, a malaria blocker. So it prevents the malaria from metastasizing and like taking root, I guess, just in case there was malaria. So yeah, no malaria free. But so long story short, I said, listen guys, I don't have a whole lot of money right now, but I can give you equity in what could eventually be $1 billion business. And I know there's a lot of coulds there, but you know what I'm capable of. Do you believe in the vision enough? And here's the market research. I did all the market research, like 30 pages of market research. Here's what I came up with, and this is what I think we can do. And my counterpart in India was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So
is that how he sounded, or does he have an accent?
How would Roshan say it? Yeah,
sounds like a good idea. Sounds like a good idea.
I'm sorry, Roshan.
I'm all in. I like you. No.
Yeah. So
my name is Tom. Your name's not Tom.
Roshan is the best partner I could ask for. I couldn't ask for a better partner. He's a great guy.
Listen, the most competent person I dealt with. Like I was designing my website, which was pretty easy, right, to design. It was a WordPress website, but I wanted to do certain things and little things. And the guy that I dealt with in India was the only competent person I've dealt with. Like anybody else I called, like they wouldn't call back for 4 days, or I'll get to that. Now this guy was, I could barely understand him. But let me tell you something. He was a worker. Yeah. And he worked and he did everything.
You spend enough time around him, you can understand it a little better.
Yeah, he was good.
Anything.
So
and I learned some of the language there, like Tun Sundara Ho. That's what you say to a pretty lady.
Where's the red light district? See, that's funny. You know what's wrong with you? He laughed.
We did go to the red light district.
He laughed. You just this guy.
So yeah, started a scalable high growth software business from the confines of federal prison on a contraband cell phone.
Nice.
We have great investors, advisors, team members. Like, we've grown 18,000 users, 520 paying customers, and we're growing by the day. And now we're at a point now where we realized, instead of getting into bed with VCs and going the traditional route, I mean, we've heard so many people say, listen, you'll never see $1 billion valuation unless you take venture capital. Can't wait to prove them wrong.
Right. Well,
never say never. Maybe 0.04% of businesses could pull that off, but we're going to be in that percentage. The viral network effects is what makes the difference.
I was going to say, you're keeping all your overhead low. You're not like, you know who Gary Vee is,
yeah,
right?
Of course. So
listen, how many times you've heard Gary Vee say, talk about these companies, these guys go out and they're like raising all this money, but they're not really working on the business, and they're blowing the money. He's like, and then you go through their Instagram, and every weekend they're at some different. They're going on vacation. They're going, and it's like I put $1 million or $4 million or $500,000 into your company, and you're in, you're in Vegas, you're in Jamaica, you're in Bermuda, like, and every time I ask you what's happening, you're like, oh, we're not moving as fast as we were hoping. We're doing this.
Yeah, excuses.
When are you doing anything,
fraud.
bro?
That's fraudulent. Yeah.
Like, what I'm saying? Like, you're paying yourself $250,000, a year, and you're going on vacations. Like, where's my money going?
Right.
Like, but
that's something else. Like, our senior leadership team, nobody on our senior leadership team has taken a paycheck. None of us have been paid $1. Now, obviously, we can't expect
that can't continue, right? But then
So for most of it, what we've decided is, instead of going the VC route, what we're going to do is we're going to get to $3 million ARR, hopefully by the end of next year, and as soon as we hit that threshold with 70% net operating margins or better, we're going to start paying dividends.
Right.
So people that invest, not only the people that invest in Contractor Plus now, not only do they not have to wait for that eventual exit that may never come, or acquisition, but they're going to cash flow off of their investment until that acquisition happens, if it ever happens. We're in this for the long game. So we're taking a different approach, and thankfully I'm in a position, I'm pretty diversified, and I have enough income to cover my lifestyle, my living expenses. I've set myself up pretty nice, all through legal means, which, I know it sounds silly, but I'm proud about that. So I'm in a situation where I can focus on the business and give it my full undivided attention and not have to worry about my bills and not have to pay myself. And other people on the team, they may not be able to work 60 hours a week, but everyone on our senior leadership team was working at least 30. Right. And they're balancing other full-time jobs, and we're doing amazing things. Our guy, Joe, here in Tampa, he set up a relationship with an insurance company that netted us $6,000 in the first month. And got us to break even, got our business to our break even point. Right. So, there's really big things happening, and just had a call with I guess I can talk about it, the Home Depot the other day, who we've actually been partnered with for over a year. They basically, our phase 1 integration with Home Depot, they gave us all of their product data. So when you're building an estimate inside of our app, you can search for materials and know exactly how much it costs at the Home Depot, and you can add it to the estimate. So
that's a huge benefit for Home Depot too. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's a for everybody, but in general, especially if it's Home Depot.
Exactly. So the Home Depot actually called me the other day, and I didn't believe her when she said she worked from the Home Depot. She was asking me some crazy questions about our revenue, our customers, a lot of stuff. But she sent me an email afterwards from @homedepot.com. She really works for the Home Depot. I plan on going to see her in Atlanta here soon. So the Home Depot recognized our level of integration as something different than what anyone on the market's ever done. And they wanted to know if we could handle the bandwidth if they were to start to promote us to their pros. And I said, not only could we handle it, all of our servers, all of our architecture is fully scalable, auto-scaling. Not only could we handle it, but the Home Depot, we will make sure the Home Depot benefits off of that relationship tremendously. So especially if we could work out an exclusivity deal where you're exclusively pushing your pros to Contractor Plus. I don't know what's going to come from that, but I know it's going to be good.
So right now it's pulling from what they from their sales or from what they, what the cost is for Home Depot. Is it pulling from other platforms? Like, is it pulling for Lowe's?
Yeah, so we do have Lowe's data as well. We have Lowe's, Sherwin-Williams, or not Sherwin-Williams, I'm sorry, Ace Hardware, Lumber Liquidators. We have a few.
Right.
And we have some connect, like we're working to try to get the data from Grainger and Fastenal and some other special ABC, some other specialty suppliers. So what we have done though is that we made it so that as a contractor you can import data. So if you have your own product or pricing sheet, you can just import that CSV in bulk and map the fields to our database. So even if you have like Sherwin-Williams is pretty good, they have like local reps that they assign your account.
Right.
So if you're a painting company, a painting contractor, and you have a Sherwin-Williams account, you have a rep, you can talk to your rep. They'll give you that CSV or their data feed, so you can import their most recent pricing into Contractor Plus, and you can get it. You can have them send it to you 4 times a year or whatever, and then when you upload that, it'll remap the pricing. So although we don't have a direct integration with Sherwin-Williams, you can still upload the data if they'll give it to you.
So what if you're like not tech savvy? Like in some ways I'm amazed at what I can figure out because certain applications are so easy. I'm like, even I can do it,
Right.
But like, what if you're not super tech savvy? What if you're in your 50s?
Well, most contractors aren't.
Right.
So that's why we developed everything mobile first.
Do you have customer service?
We do, yeah. So we do daily office hours and daily live demos as well. So where we walk you through how to use everything. It's a very, it's...
So you can actually talk to a person?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, chances are you'll talk to me.
Bro, you can keep in mind, I can't... Well, you know this. You know how impossible it is to talk to people. Like there's stuff where I'm like, there's got to be a human being I can talk to, and it's an endless cycle of just churning you through all of these. Even
our competitors are that way. They'll do a group demo, but then it's like a 15-20 minute rough demo. After the sales, it's a sales pitch.
Right.
After the demo or sales pitch is over, it's like once you're in the door, like good luck.
Yeah, you're on your own. Yeah.
And we never want to be like that.
Yeah. No, so. that's like to me, I will pay more if I know at some point I can talk to a human being.
Right.
Like that's what I'm concerned about. That I'll try and make the effort to go through the process of sending this, and asking the bot this and asking the bot that. But at some point, I have to be able to talk to somebody. If I can't get it myself,
bot doesn't resolve problems.
Right.
Yeah.
So at some point, like it's cool to be able to say, look, you can actually talk to somebody that will tell you, go here, do this, click this. Okay, good.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's we've been building out our SOPs, our standard operating procedures, and our senior leadership team, Robert Posey, our CRO, is implementing all of our sales processes and onboarding, and we've actually partnered with a company out of Tel Aviv. They're called Tolstoy. And
you're all over there. You're like international.
Well, so right now our app is available in the United States only, and by the end of the first quarter of next year, we will be in Canada, the UK, and Australia. And our goal, we're currently tapping into some like grant funding and stuff for our private limited in India. The Indian entity is owned by the American corporation, so but that grant funding will go to basically make an Indian version of this solution that we're going to give to India.
Right.
We're just going to make money off the transactions. India is not a market where you can really sell subscription-based SaaS software, but it can once you've got a strong enough user base and following. Then you can implement a pricing strategy on the base subscriptions. But initially, you have to give it away, or you won't be able to penetrate the market. Kind of what we did here. We launched with really poor unit economics. We're giving 3 seats for $15 a month. That's $5 a piece. After Apple takes their 30% or Google takes their 30%, you're not left with a whole lot left. But now that we've got a strong following and we've built this solution out, it's worth a lot more than $15 a month. And we have a lot of customers paying us $100 a month for an ultimate account. And what we're going to do is when we launch this seed round, we're making it so all of our existing customers can be grandfathered in, and they'll always have access to our current pricing and plans for life. They'll never be forced to switch to a new plan, which is on a per user pricing model, as long as they make an investment of a certain amount in Contractor Plus. So they help us, we help them. They will never increase their pricing ever.
So
and Contractor Plus, hits unicorn status in a few years, they just made millions of dollars.
Right.
So.
Well, how do you invest? What was the website you said?
So it's on WeFunder.
WeFunder.
WeFunder.com/contractor.
Is there a minimum that you can invest?
It's on WeFunder. You're gonna have to edit that part out, the WeFunder part, because I dropped the direct link because we're gonna want people to go to your link.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Okay. So how if somebody wanted to invest, how would they invest? And is there like a minimum investment?
So you can actually invest online. You don't have to be accredited. You just have to create an account at WeFunder. There's no minimum investment. The minimum is $100. So you can invest as little as $100 or up to an unlimited amount. There's different perks along the way for investing. Like we'll give away our ultimate accounts, corporate accounts, some other stuff like swag, like T-shirts and nonsense. But the real benefit is the convertible note that you're getting, which is an investment vehicle that will convert to equity plus interest. So not only are you getting in with early bird terms, our valuation came back. We had a third-party valuation come back, put us between the $3.8 and $4.6 million range, pre-money valuation. And so we're basing our raise off of that. The first 25% will get in at $3.5 million, at a cap of $3.5 million. The last 75%, so the first $250,000 raised, the last $750,000 raised will be on a $4.6 million or $6 million cap.
Right. So do you want me to leave like a link? I can leave a link in the description.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And what about for what? Like the app? I can leave the app for the app and for the
check out the app. Put a link for the app and it's totally free. So
right.
You can
and
check
the
and the WeFunder page.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some on the WeFunder page. We're actually doing a weekly meet and greet and like a webinar for people that are interested in investing. So you can come and meet the team behind Contractor Plus. We're doing it every Friday at 11 a.m.
Where's that?
It's on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
So on the WeFunder page, the link in the description below, you'll see where you can register for the upcoming webinar. You can come say hello, and we'll give you a little demo of what we built and what we're building. What we have today and where the product will be in the next 6 months is so vastly different. I mean, it's the stuff we have on our roadmap right now is just mind blowing. It's unbelievable. We're addressing both ends of the market. You got Service Titan over here, and you've got Procore over here, and we're meeting the needs of both of these guys, and we're facilitating the relationship between them. So by doing that, I believe we'll be unstoppable.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Do you what else is going on? That's it? I mean, do you have anything?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much.
What else should we talk about?
I think we're good.
Is that a good end cap though? Not really a good end cap. It's a terrible end cap.
Isn't it?
It's
right.
We went straight into promotion.
Huh? We should what? He'll cut this part out.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? What else do you want to go over?
He does this every time. He does this every time.
Well, let me think.
Because otherwise, I'm about to jump into.
How can we tie it back into like? Should we tie?
Oh, you know what? You should kind of be like at the end of the day, second chances, whatever, blah blah blah.
Oh yeah.
What you make of it.
Yeah. Okay. Ready?
So what would you maybe
Right.
Ask me a question or something? What would you think?
Well, no, I got it. I got it. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, sorry, I'm just making this. Sorry, it's making me laugh.
That's the thumbnail image right
There
there.
you go, yeah.
Yeah. Did you see that one? The Danny?
No, I didn't
Danny
see.
did one the other day. We were talking about getting on testosterone replacement therapy,
Yeah.
and I had just started it. I gained 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Get the fuck, you're doing it." And he said, "Let me see your guns." I said, "Man, I'm not doing all that." And he kept bugging me. He goes, "Come on, just do it." And I was like, "There, okay." He goes, "That's the thumbnail," and he put it up. It's the thumbnail.
That's hilarious.
So anyway, Okay, so you're running this whole thing from Orlando and from Florida and Ohio, and you're doing a raise for investors, and you came up with all of this in prison, got out, implemented it. Because here's the what's interesting to me is like how many guys locked up have these huge dreams. So, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this. And you know how many times I would talk to guys, and I think about, I got 13 years. So how many guys had these huge dreams? They had business plans, they had everything, and you get out and you talk to them a year later, 2 years. First of all, if they're not already coming back, if you just happen to call the guy or you hear somebody, or you speak with them and you find out that they ended up getting a job as a plumber's helper, met a girl, she's got 2 kids, moved in with her, and now it's everything they can do to pay their bills. Yep. And all of their dreams that they taught, you walk the track with them for 5 years.
Yeah.
Those are they're not even trying to attempt to do anything.
Yeah.
Like when I was locked up, I kept telling myself, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to live in someone's spare room, and I'm going to work on what I want to work on, and I'm going to try and make it work. And I'm going to do this for 10 years.
However long it takes.
Right. And in 10 years, if it doesn't work out, then, maybe I'll go get a job selling used cars and be a normal guy. But I can live in a spare room for 10 years because I've already done it for 12 or 13 years at this point. So, and I told myself, and I'm not going to get off that path. Like, I'm going to figure out a way to make it work. And so many guys leave. And so it's just comical because you just don't meet anybody that gets out, says, here's what I'm going to try and do. And they actually get out and they start taking the process, and they don't really get off course. Like, I didn't know exactly what my course was going to be. I had a general plan of what I wanted to do to make myself happy.
Sure.
But you kind of came up with this plan, and you've been slowly implementing it, and really not even slowly.
I remember I was in prison, and I was like, I would like fold the paper to make a ruler, and I was also the clerk at the garage that took care of all the vehicles on the compound. So I got to drive the warden's Charger and everything. But I would be sitting in the clerk's office, when I didn't have any preventative maintenance orders or anything to do.
Right.
And I'd be sketching mock-ups. And I mocked it up perfectly. I still have them on paper, the physical mock-ups. And over 400 screens. Every screen, every modal, every label, I mocked every detail up, because you can't leave things to chance with engineers in India. Right. You have to tell them exactly what it needs to look like, how it needs to work, where these fields relate in the database, how this data is all managed and how it works. So I would mock them all up and put them in my folder and take them back to the unit. And after 4 p.m. count, we would get our phones down, and we would pay someone to watch out the window, and I would go back to the back of the unit and lay all these papers out all over the table, turn my flash on, and scan these pages in. And I would send them to my team in India, and a few days later, I would get back the final designs. They would put it on Figma or Adobe XD, and I would see the mock-ups. I'd go through and make notes. I could drop little droppers on it with notes and tell them what to change. And we went through the design and iteration process where we came up with the app that you see today, and a lot of that happened
while you were laying in bed or in the back room with the contraband phone in prison. Yeah, good. That's that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's good stuff. It's like it's the same thing. It's me writing stories and getting out and trying to push the stories, and then selling the film rights and doing the whole thing. Where it's like,
exactly.
How insane is that? Like, you're laying in bed daydreaming, and then years later, all of those things start to happen, and it's like, This is ridiculous.
But back to your point, like, you're on a compound with 2,000 people, and everyone has these ideas.
Yeah, they just don't. It's
ideas, but an idea without execution is useless.
I was gonna say, I forget what the exact quote, but it was like everybody has a multi-million-dollar idea. Everyone at some point in their life, they have.
But do you have what it takes to bring it to life or not?
It's pulling the trigger.
Yeah.
Most people just can't pull the trigger.
Well, what's sad about that is, like, half the time, all you really have to do is show up.
Yeah. If you you make a few phone calls, you show up, you pitch here, you pitch there, and eventually
it would be harder. I think it would be harder to be broke and live in a cardboard box than it would to be a millionaire.
Yeah, I mean, I Yeah, I get it. I get that.
It's really not that complicated. And you know, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You got to stay focused. You know, you got to be addicted to success. You got to be driven enough to the point where you're going to show up and you're going to keep showing up and you're not going to stop and you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows like anything else. But you just don't, when you get knocked down, you just get back up and you keep going and going and going and you don't stop. You don't let anyone stop you. I didn't let them stop me then. I'm not going to let them stop me now.
Right. What's interesting is, it's funny because my dad used to say this. My dad was kind of a prick, but he had he did say some good stuff. And, you know, one of the things he used to say was, you know, don't ever take a job or don't ever do anything for money. Just do something that you really love and be the best at it, and the money will come. And it's the same thing that you're saying. It's the same thing
money,
you're saying right now.
I always say money is a consequence of adding value or serving one another. So when you're coming to a relationship or when you're coming to the table, adding value, when you're bringing equal value from what you're trying to take away from the table, the money comes.
Right.
Money's a byproduct. It shouldn't be the focus. For a long time before I went to prison, I was focused on the dollar signs.
Yeah.
And I was never happy.
Oh, me too.
This is the same. And look at what I was doing. I was doing things. I mean, you could argue I was morally bankrupt. I mean, I was doing things. I just justified it, saying, "Well, I'm not putting a gun to his head, making him take these drugs.
Right.
It's not me. Like if he uses too much intentionally and overdoses and dies, I didn't make him do that.
Right.
You know, I didn't sell it to a kid.
Right.
I didn't. So I justified my actions based on these things. But like looking back, I can see, well, I would much rather be part of the solution than part of the problem.
Right. We had this exact conversation. Do you remember when we were having lunch with Brandon in Ohio? We had this exact conversation where where I was saying that like I had tons of money, I was never happy. You know? And now I barely have any money. I love my life. Like I was talking to some guy who was telling me, who's running a YouTube channel that seems really successful, and he was, and it appears successful, and he was, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, you got to buy this, you got to pay this, you go here, you pay these guys to do this. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. Like maybe that'll make me a little bit more money, but I like what I'm doing. I mean, I'm not going to risk doing some stupid shit because I enjoy what I'm doing. I like waking up and going and working out. I like coming here. I like interviewing guys. Like you remind me of the guy Ryan Root, which is a guy, steroid guy.
Okay.
And he did the same thing. He was like,
really? I remind you of a steroid guy.
No. He was in prison and he was telling himself, when I get out, I'm going to build a website. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like he started coming up with and I'm going to do this all legally. Like he was in prison for steroids illegally. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm going to just do it legally. Like I could have done it legally. Wouldn't have made as much money. But if I had gone through the right course, I could have legally done this. And he loved doing it. He's like, I love doing the replacement therapy. He's like, I loved it. And I realized that he said, I got to a point where it was like, once I got all the toys, I realized that like, this isn't what is making me happy. What's making me happy is serving these customers, getting to know them,
their lives.
Helping them, and he was telling me about like all the emails he would get where guys were saying, "You've changed my life. You've made me feel great about this. I'm showing huge gains."
Shot a week and you get that BDE.
Right. Well, I was gonna and keep in mind if you're older, so your libido comes back. Like you saved my marriage. He's like, guys are saying like, you saved my marriage. Like this isn't a joke. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was like, that made him happy. And so when he went to prison, he kind of devised this whole system around creating a business that already exists. He didn't create the business, that model exists, but he was going to do it his way.
Right.
And he was going to do it. And now he's doing that.
Successfully.
He pays all his bills. He said, I'm actually really making good money doing it. He said, but to be honest, he's like, it isn't even, I could care less about the money. Right. He's like, I'm not spending the money. I'm not blowing the money.
It's about living a life of purpose. Like when you feel like, when you wake up every day and you actually have an attachment, like you're 100% in, like you feel purposeful, like purpose driven. It doesn't matter how much money's in your bank account. Yeah. As long as your basic essentials, as long as your needs, like there's food on the table, your rent's paid, you don't have to stress about dollar signs. Beyond that, I don't care how much money I have.
Yeah, but it's that, like everybody's like, prison, like, oh, how'd you do all that time? How this, how that? It was like, well, it really, I always joke, the first decade's the hardest. After that, it's no big deal. But the truth is, once I started writing, like the first 3 years was horrible. But after 3 years, I started working on my memoir. And instead of me waking up like just hating my life, it gave me purpose. And then when the worst thing was when I was done with my memoir, it was like, what am I going to do now? So I started working on his memoir. And then I started working on his memoir. And then I started working on his story and the synopsis of these guys' story. And then every day I had purpose. And when I was going to get out of prison, I started feeling anxious about getting out of prison because I had built such a great life. I had a great routine. I loved my life. I couldn't pay for commissary. I had no money, but I really loved my life. I was more concerned about getting out and saying, how am I going to be able to keep doing what I'm doing and pay my bills? And that's when I was like, oh, I'm going to live in someone's spare room. I'll just keep my bills down to nothing. I can live on nothing.
You can do like legal paperwork and have people put money on your books for commissary?
No. I mean, really, to be honest, I didn't.
You didn't need it.
First of all, I didn't really. Anyway. Yeah, I didn't really need that because one, I wasn't a big eater,
right.
And I'm living off of chow. Like I don't need anything special.
Right. They make sure you're fed.
You understand? I bought when I was in prison. I bought 2 pair of shoes in 13
What?
years. 2 pair of shoes. You know whose shoes I was when I was getting shoes? One, my cousin bought me a pair of shoes one time because he said, I'm tired of watching you walk around in the boots. I wore the boots almost all the time. Or when people were leaving, they would give me their shoes. They'd go, bro, you and I are about the same height. Say, what size shoes do you wear? Or I would say to them, bro, you're leaving next week.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, yeah. I'd say, are you going to take those shoes? They're like, no. I'm like, can I get them? I'm a size, whatever, 7.5 or 8, 8.5. And they go, yeah, no problem. So I'd get their shoes. Oh, I did that. Wore the boots.
People, you look out for each other in there.
Some guys do. Some guys, you know,
for sure. There's a lot of good people in prison. There's a lot of good people behind the fence.
Yeah,
and
a lot of scumbags.
There's a lot of scumbags.
Yeah, a lot of scumbags too.
For sure.
Yeah, I always hate it when everybody was like, "No, there's great people."
They do have prisons for a reason.
95% of those guys I don't want living in my neighborhood. But yeah, I hear you. There are good people.
There's a lot of good people.
Yeah,
especially like the lower down, like when you get down to like the camp level, like you're gonna meet most of. Like I wouldn't have a problem living next to any one of those 51 people from Big Sandy.
Right.
There's a couple that I would rather live a little further down the street, but for the most part, I don't. None of them are a threat to public safety or. But
I'm just saying, what I think is great is that, you formulated this idea and you've stuck with the idea and it's fucking working.
Well,
like there's not a lot of people.
You'll never be successful if you give up.
Yeah.
So, can't give up.
Yeah. Well, it's just that whole thing about failing. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like, and I've always say this to all the I don't have
failing forward.
I don't have a problem failing. Like I don't have. I have a problem not. I can live with failing. I can't live without not trying. Like at least I try.
Failing and giving up are two different things.
Right.
Like when you fail, do you fail or do you fail forward? If you fail forward, then you're not giving up. You're saying, okay, I'm just going to learn a different way to go about this, and I'm going to keep trying until I figure it out.
Yeah. Was it Einstein that he tried to? Did he try and create the electric light bulb? Like something like 650. Edison? Sorry. Edison, like 650 times or something. I forget what the
it was
amount
a bunch, was.
And he said, times, and they were like, man, that was
learned.
That was all those times. Yeah. He said, all I learned is how many times it won't work.
Yeah. Yep.
But I only needed it to work once.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a constant process. I mean, we're like in software, you have to be agile, and you have to constantly listen to your customers, and you have to create a feedback loop where you're studying their behavior, and you're figuring out how to optimize things and improve the workflow, and you have to listen. Like you have to genuinely listen and try to understand their perspective. If you don't, or if you don't care, if you just think you have it all figured out and you know everything, then you've created a giant polished turd that nobody wants to use.
Right.
You have to make it fit like a glove for your customers, and you have to listen. You always have to be listening to your customers. The second you stop listening to your customers is the second you start dying.
Yeah, you might want to work on the polished turd pitch.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't. I mean, you might want to go something else. I don't know, maybe not a turd, but yeah. All right. Well, listen. So I appreciate you coming by. I appreciate
thanks for having me, man.
The interview, and I know you drove out here. Did you come from Orlando? You were already
Yeah.
here. No?
No, so I was in Orlando for a couple of days. My sister had taken my niece. It was my niece's birthday yesterday, so I flew in for her birthday.
Okay.
They went to Disney, and I took some sales calls. Brandon's business is blowing up right now, and he has a pretty small sales team. I'm not even a sales guy,
Right.
But I'm helping out on the sales team right now, so. I believe in what he's doing, and I see it changing. Like I was mentioning earlier, Jacqueline and her husband Andrew, their goal was to own 1 laundromat, and they're about to close on 3.
Oh, okay.
And
You didn't
they've been in the
mention, you
program
didn't mention that.
Yeah, I didn't get. So it's like, and this other kid, he's like 18, 19 years old, starts the program, and not even a month later, he's in a laundromat. Got a guy out in Minnesota that took over a car wash. A guy here in Tampa. He approached Brandon. He's young. He's like 29, 30. He already has 100 plus doors. He approached him saying, listen, I don't care about the courses and all that stuff. All I really care, like my goal is to retire by 40. I want to have 1,000 properties. Can you help me get in touch with the right people to facilitate that growth so I can scale my portfolio using other people's money?
Right.
And Brandon said, yeah. So regardless of where you're at, like it's just an amazing thing that he's got going on over there. There's a lot of people out there selling courses and doing, just taking people's money.
Right.
And I can't do that. I can't sell something I don't believe in. If
Right.
I don't believe in it, I won't sell it. But I'm also not a sales guy. I don't study these rebuttals and these things. Like if you tell me like I need to talk to my wife, I'm not like trying to manipulate you out of, not to buy it now and not talk to her, but
Right.
a sales professional would,
Right.
I sell and I close more deals than anyone else on the team solely because I have the conviction. I know the man behind it, and I know what his values are, and I know, and I see it changing people's lives. And when you see that, it's an easy sell. Like I know it'll work as long as you show up.
Yeah. Well,
So-
it's like that's the big problem with most people. A lot of people, you can tell them, look, you got to do this, 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 and this. They do this and this, and they just stop, and then they say, oh, it doesn't work. No, it does work. You just didn't do it. You just didn't finish.
That's right.
But yeah. All right. I appreciate you stopping by, and
It was good seeing you.
yeah. So I'm going to put all your links in the descriction, and
That'd
if
be
anybody,
good. Phenomenal.
everybody should check it out, and click the link, go to the WeFunder, and go to check out the website. I guess you can't check out the app unless you want to download the app. You could check
It's
out
free.
the app.
Yeah, you
Is
can
it
download
free?
the app,
Oh yeah. Okay.
It's on Android and iOS. You type in Contractor, we come up number 1.
Oh, nice.
It's a red icon, Contractor Plus, with
All
a
right.
plus icon.
Cool. All right. I appreciate it. Everything's going to be in the description. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do me a favor and hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe,
How have
hit
you
the
not
notification,
subscribed?
hit the note. Huh?
I said, how have you not subscribed?
Have you not subscribed? Listen.
This is as real as it gets.
I mean, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys watching, and thank you very much. And hey, also, I have a Patreon, and all my links are in the description. So appreciate it. And if you leave a comment, I will definitely try and respond to the comment. Thanks a lot, and I will see you.
Contractor Plus is a fast-growing field service management software startup. We're taking an unconventional approach to building and scaling a high-growth business, and we're growing fast. We've already got 18,000 users. We're facilitating the operations and networking of contractors while streamlining their relationships with property managers and developers. We're looking at a $25+ billion market opportunity by 2030. We've already partnered with Chase Bank, Home Depot, Company Cam, Thumbtack, and Next Insurance. If you're interested in making an early stage investment in a fast-growing, customer-centric company that's disrupting an industry, this is your chance. And you don't have to be accredited to invest. There's a link in the description below this video where you can go to WeFunder and make your investment. We're on a mission to get you a massive ROI. Thanks for your support.